At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426 Unknown. Thousands of zombies turned their heads and ran in the opposite direction of the shelter. This scene stunned Zhang Yi and the others. It's the first time I've heard that zombies will feel fear, so they retreat strategically. Zhang Yi got up from the ground. He carefully watched the backs of the zombies going away. His eyes were full of fear. Now I can be sure of one thing, these zombies must be secretly manipulated. When he found that it was difficult to kill us, he chose to run away in order to keep these zombies. Liang Yu frowned, and after thinking for a while, she shook her head. I really can't imagine how humans manipulate thousands of zombies at the same time. Besides, these corpses are all frozen, and they can't be killed even by beheading. With such a powerful ability, he can completely become the king in Xianhe City. After all, corpses are the most common thing outside now. Zhang Yi looked at a large pile of broken and charred corpses on the ground, some of which were still moving. They only have stumps and broken arms, and they still have terrible vitality. It's like an earthworm that has been cut into many pieces and doesn't know how to kill at all. The thought of facing more such things in the future made even Zhang Yi's head ache. You have to figure out what these things are and who is controlling them in what way. Otherwise, Xianhe City may never have peace in the future. Zhang Yi walked over, trying to collect some of the zombie fragments into his own different space. It went very smoothly, which also shows that they are indeed dead bodies and do not have biological characteristics. But they are still active, which is incredible. Could it be that there are really some methods of controlling corpses similar to Xiangxi exorcism? Is it my short-sightedness, so I don't want to believe in the existence of metaphysics? Zhang Yi's heart became more and more troubled. He threw the flamethrower to Fatty Zhu. Burn all these things. At least now that we know, they can still be burned to death. Everyone is like that. No one can explain what happened today. Perhaps since that day when thousands of corpses disappeared on the battlefield, a mysterious suspense has lingered in everyone's heart. With the emergence of today's zombie crisis, everyone can no longer choose to ignore it. Although the zombies were successfully repelled, everyone's faces were full of confusion. After returning to the shelter, Zhao Ke, Yang Mi and others were also terrified. From their pale little faces, it could be seen that they were also taken aback. After all, who has seen such a zombie that is more ferocious than a dog? Still a large group of zombies. But everyone who is not Zhang Yi and others here today, even fully armed soldiers, will be torn to pieces. Is there really a ghost? Yang Mi patted her chest in fear, her eyes filled with fear. The older Aunt Zhao Heimei frowned slightly. It's hard to say. This kind of thing has always been more credible than credible. It's best to be in awe. As a veteran actress who has worked in the entertainment industry for many years, Zhao Heimei has always believed in fortune telling and numerology. It is said that she was not popular when she was young, but later she found a well-known master in the circle to change her name, and then she became popular. Some things cannot be explained clearly with the current scientific level of mankind, but they do exist. Zhang Yi didn't speak, but sat on the sofa and began to think about the strange things that happened recently. These thousands of zombies came from the Zishan base. However, when he, Fatty Zhu, and Uncle Yu went to the Zishan base to sweep the goods, he actually felt something strange around him. It's just that at that time, he only regarded it as his own psychological effect and didn't pay too much attention to it. Before leaving, he sealed off the entrance to the Zishan base again. In fact, there was an element of peace of mind. In addition, a while ago, the bodies of those soldiers disappeared by themselves and entered the Sigwa subway station. Behind all the signs, there must be some big secret hidden. Someone must be manipulating those corpses. While several women were chattering and discussing whether it was a supernatural event, Zhang Yi made a decisive conclusion. Those zombies know how to avoid my dimensional gate and also know how to escape. This is the performance of intelligent creatures. So there must be a stranger who can manipulate the corpse and shot us in the dark. Zhang Yi's words made sense, and everyone couldn't help but nodded. But Zalkea raised confusion again. But why did he come and attack us? We have never offended anyone. Recently, only the Zhao base and the Yangsheng base have enmity with us. But if they had such powerful power, wouldn't they have used it in that battle long ago? Why did they wait until now? Zhang Yi shook his head. Things happened so suddenly, how could it be so easy to figure out? In short, we don't go out in the shelter. It's very safe here, and those zombies alone can't break through. Let's wait and see. Speaking of this, Zhang Yi suddenly thought of something, looked at Yang Xingxin and said, Xingxin, pay attention to other forces in the past few days. Let's see if this phenomenon is only encountered by us, or is it common in Xianhe City. Yang Xingxin nodded. Okay, leave this matter to me. Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu, and Liang Yu again. Uncle Yu, Liang Yu, you need to check your body carefully to prevent being scratched by those things. If there is really a zombie virus, we need to be careful. As soon as Zhang Yi finished speaking, everyone silently kept a certain distance from Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. After all, there are similar plots in zombie movies, and people who are bitten or scratched by zombies will also be infected with zombie viruses. Uncle Yu and Liang Yu were a little speechless, but they also understood that Zhang Yi's caution made sense. Okay, we will cooperate with the inspection. Zhang Yi smiled and spread his hands. Relax, I'm not suspicious of you, just for the sake of safety. In fact, they are all wearing bulletproof combat uniforms, and the zombies alone are unlikely to bite them. Zhang Yi was only out of caution. He and Zalkea took Uncle Yu and Liang Yu to check their bodies. No wounds were found, so I was relieved. Okay, nothing happened. The two of you can leave first. Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu and Liang Yu with a smile. After sending away the two people, only Zhang Yi and Zalkea were left in the infirmary. Zhang Yi looked at Zalkea, and his tone became cautious. There is one thing I need you to do. Zalkea immediately realized what Zhang Yi wanted her to do. You want me to study zombies? Zhang Yi nodded. I have to confirm whether these things really have viruses in their bodies, or are they controlled by aliens with abilities. If it's the former, it will become a disaster covering the entire Xianhe city. No, it will even spread to the whole country, or even the whole world. But if it's the latter, Zhang Yi's expression became more and more serious. He took a deep breath and said slowly, that means that there is another extremely terrifying existence in Xianhe City that we didn't know before. Zalkea looked worried and came over and gently hugged Zhang Yi from behind. No matter what the result is, it's very scary. Zhang Yi held her hand, said with a faint smile, don't think so much, we don't have that much thought to care about the outside world. What we have to do is to protect ourselves first. As long as this shelter can exist safely, we can live a good life forever. Zalkea nodded. She thought what Zhang Yi said made sense. Thinking too much will only bring people deeper despair. Zhang Yi took out a piece of flesh and blood from a different space and placed it on the workbench. After it appeared, its body was still wriggling, like a half-cut earthworm limb. Although the body has shown signs of freezing, it still exudes the vitality of life. Even Zalkea, a well-informed doctor, was dumbfounded. What a miracle. Zhang Yi warned, you have to be careful. It's still not sure if it's a virus, and I don't know how contagious it is. Liang Yu smiled faintly. Don't worry, don't forget what I do. She skillfully picked up the tweezers, put the piece of minced meat into the tray, and covered it with a glass cover. I need some time to work on it. It's okay, we still have plenty of time. If it's just a crisis of this level, we can easily solve it. Zalkea sighed. Yes, after all, our armed forces are also second to none in Xianhe City. It's just that, if this zombie crisis breaks out among other forces, especially organizations like the Snow Worship Cult, it must be very scary. Chapter 427. Just as Zhang Yi thought, this time the zombie crisis is not aimed at them. Instead, a large-scale eruption broke out in the entire Xianhe city. The Yangsheng base, Chaoyu base, and Qingpu base were all attacked by a large number of zombies that appeared from nowhere. The soldiers have no experience in dealing with this kind of deadly transformation. At first they thought it would be good to smash their heads. But who would have thought that, even if their heads were smashed, the zombies would still pounce on them and take off their heads with their sharp claws. This group of zombies is not the kind of dull stuff on TV. Both in speed and strength are much greater than ordinary people. Zombie hordes rushed in overwhelmingly. The first line of defense of the human defenders could hardly resist, and was soon broken through head on. There are too many zombies and they are extremely difficult to kill. For a time, several major bases suffered heavy losses, and many people were killed by this perverted thing. However, the 3 major bases had strong firepower anyway, and after a period of panic, the leaders and alien captains of their respective bases immediately organized a counterattack. On the side of the Yangsheng base, Zhao Hanglian immediately discovered their characteristic of being afraid of flames. She jumped onto a high tower furnace, relying on high purity alcohol, to spew out a fire dragon, sweeping through the crowd of zombies. Just like insecticide killing insects, it quickly burned those zombies into coke. But looking around, there are too many zombies around. Compared with the thousands of zombies encountered in Zhang Yi's shelter, the bases located in the core positions of each area faced a larger group of corpses. Zhao Hang's brows were bristling when she practiced the sword. Her ability was brought into full play by the purgatory furnace. A man carrying a heavy iron box came to her side. The iron box is full of alcohol with the highest purity. Zhao Hanglian swallowed the alcohol into his stomach and then spewed out flames like a giant dragon, splitting the earth like a sickle into gullies. After they fought hard and killed an unknown number of zombies, they blocked this wave of terrifying attack. What the hell are these things? They are definitely not zombies in the general sense. Find out how they appeared, and is there someone manipulating them? Seeing the oil refinery he managed so painstakingly in a mess, with corpses everywhere, Zhao Hanglian was furious. Not only Zhao Han practiced here, but Crossing Shan activated his abilities at the King Pu base, leading 500 of the most elite fighters around him, and launched a charge against the zombie group face to face. With his ability blessing, these fighters have all become powerful fighters who integrate offense and defense. They don't even need to use weapons like guns, but rely on huge battle axes, war hammers, and iron rods to fight with the corpses hand to hand. Obviously, this way of fighting is more effective than firearms. Even the frozen corpse was smashed into pieces by these brothers. Here at Zhao base, the main guns of the ships moored in the deep sea were even directly used to bombard the corpses. Although the attack of the hordes of corpses is very powerful, they alone cannot cause too heavy a blow to the major forces. After all, the firepower of several major forces is fierce, and there are also many powerful aliens. Where did these things come from? Could it be cultivated by some other force in Xianhei City? Or is there an underground force that we haven't discovered in the past? Wei Dinghe frowned, expressing his concern. Zhang Yi and the 3 major bases resolved the current troubles relatively smoothly. Although there is a loss, it is still within the tolerable range. But for Snow Worship Cult, it will be miserable. They have absorbed congregants too fast in the past month, and the scale of the sect has expanded rapidly. In the core area of Snow Worship Sect in Xianfeng District, tens of thousands of believers are concentrated. And among this group of people, more than 7% do not have strong combat effectiveness, and they don't even have weapons. It was this huge crowd that attracted a large number of zombies underground. That night, the members of the Snow Worship Cult finished their prayers and returned to their respective tents to rest. In order to keep warm, they lived together in several closed buildings. At night, light the fire and eat the collected canned food and the red sacred fruit picked from the sacred tree. Among these people were the residents of Yulu community who came with Li Jian. Li Jian's son Li Kail was very happy when he came to the Snow Worship camp. He can finally meet new friends. In just a few days, he met Zubibi, a girl next door who was the same age. With the end of the world coming, people's desire for emotion is still strong. They are all adolescent boys and girls, and soon they have a good impression of each other. In this apocalyptic world, when 2 people met for the first time, they had eyesight. In addition, they live relatively close together, and they have nothing to do other than praying on weekdays, so the 2 stay together every day. Li Kail took out his treasured books. Zubibi also shared with him the oil paintings she picked up. At the most innocent age, the relationship between the 2 is also very pure. Li Kail secretly made up his mind that after the end of the world, he will marry Zubibi and stay together for the rest of his life. No one noticed that in the dark area, Pairs of dark green eyes had already stared at this place. The night watch soldiers noticed shadowy figures appearing around them. But the sky was too dark, and they couldn't see the strangeness of these zombies at all. The night watchmen thought they were survivors who had come to defect, so they stepped forward to inquire. "Where did you come from? Do you need our help?" As a result, when they took a closer look, they found that the situation was obviously wrong. That bluish purple skin, empty eyes, and the terrible mutilated wounds on his body are obviously not alive. Ah. Weird. A monster. The night watchman screamed in terror. And at this time, the zombies also acted. Where there is fire, there are living people, and the zombies are like moths to the flame. It's just that this time they didn't kill themselves, but brought death to the unprepared living people in the camp. The soldiers of the night watch rushed to attack. Gunshots rang out. But these zombies are not afraid of these weapons at all. Even if their heads are beaten into a sieve, they can still pounce on the living and bite the living. What? Help me, save me. The shrill screams sounded one after another, resounding from every corner around the camp, extremely penetrating. This sound echoed around the entire snow worship cult camp, finally alarming everyone. But when they realized the enemy's attack, those fearless guards couldn't do any harm to the zombie group. Followers of the snow worship cult do not fear death for their faith. But these zombies are not only not afraid of death, but also extremely difficult to kill. Even they have much higher attack power than ordinary people. After all, without the limitation of the brain, they can freely liberate their physical power. The dense army of zombies in the darkness surrounded the entire snow worship cult camp and launched a terrifying attack. Soon, hundreds of congregants were killed by zombies. Some guards realized that these were legendary zombies and aimed their guns at their heads in horror. However, this kind of attack could not hinder its footsteps at all. On the contrary, because of the loud noise, it attracted more zombies, threw him on the ground, and tore him to pieces. There was a desperate cry from the snow worship cult's camp. The guards were easily killed, and the remaining ordinary congregants were still resting at this time, unable to form an effective defense at all. After those powerful zombies rushed in, it was like gangsters who had been hungry for 3 days and entered the cafeteria. At this moment, just like the cafeteria is open. Chapter 428 The New Storm. The snow worship cult has expanded so fast over the past few months, and the number of its followers has suddenly expanded to tens of thousands. They all lived in buildings adjacent to St. John's Cathedral. For the convenience of heating, dozens of people can often live in one room, and the population density is extremely high. So under such a population density, they were attacked by zombies, leaving them no room to escape. On the floor, where Lee Kyle and Zubibi were located, zombies also rushed up. They pass through the dark corridors. Even if they can't see anything, they can still feel the existence of living people. Boom. Boom. One door after another was knocked open, and the zombies rushed in and started killing. The congregation screamed loudly in fright, and some fainted from fright, but they still couldn't avoid the fate of being eaten. Some jumped from tall buildings in order to escape, but there were more zombies waiting for them outside with their mouths open. Hey, meatloaf is falling from the sky. Lee Kyle also turned pale with fright at this time, but looking at Zubibi, who was so scared that his legs were weak, he mustered up great courage, took her hand and ran upstairs. Zombies have no brains, they just instinctively kill the living. So it is the best way to run to the top at this time. Go to my parents first. Lee Kyle pulled Zubibi out the door, only to meet his parents who hurried over to look for him. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang felt relieved when they saw that their son was fine. Seeing Lee Kyle holding Zubibi's hand tightly, the two didn't say much. Even in the last days, they still respect their son's pursuit of love. That is the instinct of human beings, and it is also the hope for the continuation of civilization. Run up. Li Jian and Zhang Jianfang protected the two of them and started running upstairs. A large number of zombies chased after them with strange and piercing screams from their throats. But suddenly two people blocked their way. These are two strangers who were personally ordered by Zhang Yi to protect the safety of Li Jian's family. A stranger looked at the zombie in front of him. Without saying a word, he punched the wall next to him and then pulled it violently, tearing the whole wall apart. The gravel blocked the way in front of them, and the zombies could not move forward, so they had to turn around and kill other living people. Flesh and blood were flying everywhere, and the zombies didn't get too much money from the other houses, so they were finally able to let go of their mouths here. There were shrill screams everywhere, and blood splattered everywhere. There are scenes of zombies tearing flesh and blood everywhere, and the sound of gnawing bones is everywhere. The camp of Snow Worship Cult has now become a hell on earth. However, the senior management of Snow Worship Cult also reacted quickly. Around St. John's Cathedral, zombies have surrounded. The interior of the church also gathered a large number of believers, especially the core of Snow Worship Cult. Zombies who smell the smell of strangers are like sharks who smell blood, with red eyes. They want to rush in and choose to eat them. At this moment, the door of the church suddenly opened. An invisible force rushed over at once, knocking dozens of zombies far away in front of them. High Priest Zhang Yi came out of the church, followed by more than a dozen strangers. The tragedy in front of them made everyone's pupils constrict. Facing this unknown thing, no one is not shocked. Zombies. This kind of thing was originally only seen in movies and TV dramas in peaceful times. Now that he actually appeared by his side, how can he keep calm? There was a slight fluctuation in Zhang Yi's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure and began to direct everyone to counterattack. Tongzhan, Zhang Yi, you guys stay inside the church, and you are not allowed to come out under any circumstances. Protect the leader and the believers in the church. Others follow me to kill these zombies. Under the leadership of Zhang Yi, the Snow Worship sect finally began to restore some order and launched a counterattack against the zombie group. With the addition of these powerful aliens, the battle situation finally turned. The congregation, who had been dizzy from the beating, also regained their sanity and began to fight back with all the weapons at hand. SHHHHH. A dozen cold lights flashed in the air. Immediately, the heads of a dozen zombies fell to the ground. Han Chang started his beast form, a small animal with a line of white hair from head to back, fangs and sharp claws. Han Chang's animal form is the honey badger, which is the legendary flat-headed brother. According to the common sense he learned on TV, he cut off the heads of more than a dozen zombies, thinking that this would be the end of it. But I didn't expect that those zombies just swayed for a while, and their movements were a little slow, but they still rushed towards him. None of these are dead. Han Chang was taken aback, but as brother Ping Tao, he was fearless. Then we'll kill you all. Not long after, a cold light flashed around him, and all the zombies were cut into 7 or 8 pieces, and fell to the ground with a splash, still wriggling non-stop. It's disgusting. What the hell is this? Han Chang looked disgusted. The attack power of these zombies is stronger than that of ordinary people, but it is far from enough for a stranger like him. But they couldn't be killed with one blow, and with the tide-like numbers, they were about to be surrounded, and the strangers had to explain it. This defense battle was very difficult. There are too many zombies, and there are tens of thousands of snow worshippers. It is impossible to protect all of them with only a dozen or so aliens. Therefore, most of the time, aliens can only rush to the place with the most zombies to kill them. Ordinary congregants still have to rely on their own strength to protect themselves and their families. It was a hard fight that lasted for more than half an hour. The ground was dripping with blood, and flesh and blood flew everywhere, leaving behind an unknown number of corpses. No one knows how many of them belong to zombies, and how many belong to snow worshippers. It was only when the zombies slowly receded from the darkness that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. However, that sense of fear was lingering in his heart, and it was difficult to dissipate. Those things, what the hell are they? Han Chang put his hands in his pockets, looking at the scene of hell surrounded by blood and flesh. His face was full of depression. He heard the cries of the believers. In this battle, I don't know how many people died, and how many people lost their families. When they first came here, they all thought that the snow worship cult could protect them. It was a utopia in the last days. Han Chang's heart was aching, and he walked up to Zhang Yi with a displeased face. At this time, the aliens gathered together, and after fighting for so long, everyone was very tired. On Zhang Yi's face, he still had the expression of a 1,000-year-old iceberg, orderly ordering the survivors to clean up the battlefield. Move all the corpses to that abandoned building. In addition, check whether there are any wounded. These zombies are too weird. They may be some kind of biochemical virus. They must be separated and observed for a while, and they must not come into contact with other people. In addition, the vigilance is strengthened at night, and well-organized adult men are patrolling around the camp. The zombie group is likely to leave and never return. Although the others were tired, they also knew that it was not time to relax, so they took orders to act. Han Chan walked up to Zhang Yi, frowned and said, "These things are so outrageous that they can't be killed. And they know how to retreat. This is definitely not the kind of brainless zombie on TV." Zhang Yi glanced at Han Chan and also frowned. "We must investigate this matter carefully in the future. Otherwise, with such a huge population density of our snow worship cult, we will definitely be attacked again in the future. I just don't know if this matter is related to several other forces." Han Chan's face was full of depression, and he gritted his teeth fiercely and said, "If those bastards really did it, I will definitely not let them go." Now, the strength of snow worship cult has expanded many times. The number of congregants and the number of aliens have increased greatly, and they will no longer be afraid of a certain Malkeeler organization. Han Chan is also eager to find an opportunity to destroy the forces that have bullied them before. But Zhang Yi patted him on the shoulder. "Calm down first. This is just my guess. The most important thing now is to protect the rest of the people." Han Chan lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You are right." He turned and left to help the others with their post-war affairs. Zhang Yi stood in the center of the battlefield, looking into the distance. In the darkness, he didn't know if there were powerful enemies watching in the dark. His eyes were a little dignified and deep. Is another storm about to emerge? Inside a building where Christians live. After the tide of corpses receded, Li Jian carefully looked down from upstairs and only let out a long breath after confirming that he was safe. "It's finally alright." Zhang Jianfang walked over, and the husband and wife hugged each other tightly. Not far away, Li Kao kept holding Zubibo's hand and refused to let go. The two looked at each other with love in their eyes. Seeing the scene of their son, Zhang Jianfang and Li Jian had different expressions in their eyes. Zhang Jianfang said with a gratified smile on the corner of his mouth, "My son has grown up. He has also begun to pursue his own happiness." For Zubibi, the couple are quite satisfied. Nowadays, no one cares about family background. What matters most is the ability to survive. Zubibo's family died in the last days, and only she was still alive, so this girl's survival skills were at full strength. Zhang Jianfang didn't have any objection if she really wanted to let her join the Li family. But in the depths of Li Jian's eyes, there was a look of worry. "I just hope that this matter will not have a bad influence," he whispered, not wanting to be heard by his son and Zubibi. Zhang Jianfang looked up at him curiously. "Why do you say that?" Li Jian pondered for a moment, then said, "Do you know that, if the congregants who joined Snow Worship sect before were underage boys, they would all be that?" Zhang Jianfang was shocked. Of course she knew about it. At the beginning, she was very worried that Li Kao would be treated in the same way. Fortunately, Li Jian has supernatural powers, and judging from the attitudes of Yuan Kangai and other high-level church leaders, they also value Li Jian very much. This allowed Li Kao to make an exception. However, what is the significance of that ceremony, and whether Li Kao can completely get rid of that fate is still an indelible haze in the hearts of the husband and wife. Looking at her worried husband, Zhang Jianfang had no choice but to hug him tightly and comforted him by resting her head on his chest. "It will be fine. The three of us are together and live well." Chapter 429 They come again. In just one day, the most powerful existing forces in Xianhe City were all attacked by zombie groups. Zhang Yi's side was the least affected. There were no casualties. After all, they are relatively small in number, and don't need to protect those ordinary team members. And relying on the powerful firepower in his hands, killing those zombies is not a problem at all. Other forces were not so lucky. They more or less lost some of their members. Especially for the Snow Worship cult. According to subsequent statistics, more than 1,000 people were killed by zombies in this wave alone. There were more than 800 people who were bitten or scratched by the zombies. Those people were locked up and locked, and there were two powerful aliens in charge of guarding them. It's just that they are afraid that they will mutate into zombies. The next day, the several major forces that felt uneasy also started to communicate. On Zhang Yi's side, he called his old classmate Crossing Cheyenne to inquire about the situation. What? Your side was also attacked by zombies? MD, we also encountered it on our side yesterday, killing more than 100 of us. Where did these damn things come from? Could it be Resident Evil? Hearing that the King Poo base was also attacked by zombies, Zhang Yi felt more at ease. At least it can be confirmed that this is not an attack launched against them. No one can say anything about this. Those zombies are very strange. They can't be killed, even if their heads are cut off, and it seems that someone is manipulating them behind the scenes. Zhang Yi frowned and said with some doubts, however, after hearing what you said, I feel that the problem is a bit troublesome. There is a distance of more than 100 kilometers between our two families, but we were both attacked by zombies. If there is anyone who can command the corpses secretly, it is definitely not just one person. Crossing Cheyenne frowned deeply, and he squeezed his brows hard. You mean, there is still a terrifying force in Cheyenne City that can control the corpses? But, if that's the case, wouldn't that force be invincible? There must be more than 1,000 million people who died in Cheyenne City. Just relying on the corpses alone will kill us. Take your shelter as an example. No matter how strong it is, it won't be able to withstand being smashed every day. What Crossing Cheyenne said was exactly what Zhang Yi was worried about. The unknown enemy is always the scariest, and Zhang Yi still didn't know anything about those zombies and the possible manipulators behind them. Let's take a step and take a look. Also contact several other companies to see if they have encountered the same situation. In fact, Zhang Yi and Crossing Cheyenne don't need to take the initiative. The other three also had the same idea. They even suspected that other forces were behind this tide of corpses. Several companies exchanged information with each other, only to learn that everyone encountered the same situation. Considering who really could control such a large-scale tide of corpses, the situation of the Battle of the Five Armies would not have been like that. Everyone has reached a consensus. This wave of corpses spreading throughout Cheyenne City is definitely caused by the sixth party forces that exist underground. Definitely not some simple Resident Evil. After confirming that this matter is not dominated by any of the five families, everyone can only rely on themselves. After all, the relationship between the five families is not a partnership, and there is even a lot of enmity. Even if they cooperate, it doesn't make much sense. First of all, there is not much information that everyone has at present. Second, even if someone has information about the corpse tide, they are unwilling to share it with others. Everyone now hopes to protect themselves in the tide of corpses. Then, it would be best for the other houses to be wiped out by zombies. The most leisurely one is naturally Zhang Yi. They faced the least pressure, and the shelter was strong enough to not be afraid of zombie attacks. But those in the shelter have a concern. This time, thousands of zombies attack together. What about next time? Will it be tens of thousands? The death toll in Cheyenne City is more than 1,000 million, close to 2,000 million. If they all turned into zombies, even if there was a shelter, Zhang Yi and others would not be able to withstand it. At this point, we can only take one step at a time. Zhang Yi thought so in his heart. However, just the next day, the tide of corpses appeared outside the shelter again. Zhang Yi sighed. Let's go. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu put on combat uniforms and left the shelter to prepare for the battle. Hua was also brought along this time. But Zhang Yiqian reminded Wan not to bite those zombies with his mouth to avoid poisoning and infection. Hua nodded in a very human way. 4 people and 1 beast left the shelter and began to clean up the wave of zombies. With the previous experience, this time Uncle Yu and Liang Yu did not rush in impulsively. Liang Yu and Hua were responsible for cleaning up the approaching zombies. Fatty Zhu used ice and snow to restrict the movement of zombies. Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu used flamethrowers to attack the corpses. Blowing snow. Fatty Zhu raised his hands high, and a large ice and snowstorm covered thousands of zombies all at once. Although there is no substantial damage, the coverage area is huge. After chatting with Zhang Yi before, Fatty Zhu understood the correct way to use his abilities. The strength of ability is not enough, and the mind is used to make up. Many times his key role is to play support. Sure enough, after being shrouded in the blizzard, the movements of those zombies slowed down, and they even felt a little disoriented. Zhang Yi's eyes tightened. Sure enough, as I expected, there is a manipulator among these zombies. After covering his sight, these zombies lose their direction of action. Uncle Yu has already held a flamethrower and started to barbecue at a constant temperature. A fire dragon more than 10 meters long covered a group of zombies and quickly turned them into Z-bowskewers. And Zhang Yi came to the side and grilled with Uncle Yu in a crisscross manner. The effect of this kind of firepower interweaving was very obvious, and soon a monstrous flame was triggered in the zombie group. After being burned by the flames, a strange cry came from the throat of the zombie, and it quickly lost its ability to move. Behind the glass of the shelter, Zhao Ke held a notebook in his hand and recorded it seriously. It looks like I guessed. The zombie body is a virus that loves cold and fears heat. After being burned by high temperature, it will lose its activity and lose its ability to move. Today's wave of corpses began to retreat after losing half of them. Zhang Yi and others took advantage of the victory to pursue a wave, but the escape route of those zombies was very clever, and they fled in various directions in a scattered manner. Coupled with their extremely fast speed, even if they catch up and kill hundreds of them, many of them will be able to escape. Therefore, today is repeating yesterday's victory, killing a group and escaping a group. I always feel that something is not quite right. Zhang Yi frowned. A feeling of uneasiness slowly emerged in his heart. Although it didn't take much effort to solve the corpse tide today, but every time some zombies will escape. Among them, there is a very subtle thing that he didn't want to understand. Chapter 430 Wisdom. After Zhang Yi and the others returned to the shelter, they sat in the living room to rest. The women at home thoughtfully served hot drinks and food to help them replenish their energy. Zhao Ke stood behind Zhang Yi, gently massaged him to release the pressure. But this time, although he successfully repelled the tide of corpses again, Zhang Yi's face did not look relaxed at all. Instead, a cloud of suspicion enveloped his heart, making him look worried. Such an expression made Fatty Zhu, who was laughing and bragging with Uncle Yu, feel weird. Boss, why don't you look very happy? Everyone noticed that Zhang Yi's expression was wrong, and they all cast concerned eyes. Yeah, what are you thinking? It looks so serious. If you have any questions, we can discuss together. Zhang Yi looked up at everyone, took a deep breath, and explained, we eliminated more than half of yesterday's corpse group. But today's corpse wave, the number of zombies is only a lot more than yesterday. This shows that the infection rate of the zombie virus is very fast, and those people who may die have become zombies. If this is the case, sooner or later the entire Xianhei city will be completely occupied by zombies. I can't imagine how we will live at that time. Zhang Yi's words made the smiles on everyone's faces disappear. Everyone bowed their heads in thought, with worried expressions on their faces. Yang Xingxin sat in a wheelchair, took a sip of cappuccino unhurriedly, and said, but at present, it seems that this tendency is not obvious. Otherwise, the other party will not only mobilize thousands of zombies to attack us every time. However, she changed the subject with a rare serious expression. If we can't figure out the truth about the appearance of these zombies, they will definitely become a big trouble in the future. Lu Karen let out a long sigh. If only it was summer now. Those zombies will all rot and turn into skeletons. Zhang Yi said, the scariest thing is not their number, but that they seem to have a manipulator, so they are not brainless monsters. Plus that they are very difficult to kill, and can only be burned or dismembered. This adds to the trouble of dealing with them. Yang Xingxin said, then the most important thing is to solve the manipulators behind them? Zhang Yi smiled, it's simple. Where can I find them? Every time we kill half of them, they will run away. I can't even judge whether there is a manipulator among the corpses. After all, things like abilities. Zhang Yi spread his hands. It is full of uncertainties, and it is difficult for anyone to deduce it with common sense. It is even more impossible for them to easily go to the depths of the subway to investigate, because there must be more zombies hiding there. Even though their combat effectiveness is extremely strong, Zhang Yi will not leave the protection range of the shelter unless necessary. Just when everyone had different opinions, Zhao Ke, who was standing behind Zhang Yi, spoke softly. Actually, I have a guess. Zhang Yi subconsciously raised his neck and tried to look behind him, but his sight was covered by two curves, so he couldn't see Zhao Ke's face. Oh. Zhang Yi signaled Zhao Ke to continue talking. Usually, as a doctor, Zhao Ke doesn't directly participate in the battle plan. But this time, her professionalism as a doctor was reflected. She understands the virus better than anyone at the shelter. So her speech is of great reference value. Encouraged by Zhang Yi, Zhao Ke said, "In the past 2 days, I have studied the zombie's body and indeed found a very strange virus-like thing. It can withstand extreme cold and can even survive at -100 degrees Celsius, and it can invade the nerves of living things and control the body." But, Zhao Ke frowned slightly. It does not conform to the definition of viruses in modern biology. Its structure should be between viruses and cells, and it is more inclined to be cells, but it can invade the host's body to control and reproduce like a virus. As a scumbag who threw away knowledge after graduation, Zhang Yi was confused. Can you make it simpler? In this house, there are only a handful of people who can understand what Zhao Ke said. At least the 3 men are at a loss. Zhao Ke smiled embarrassedly. After the end of the world, under the influence of gamma rays, biology has been redefined. Let's call it a zombie virus for now. In simple terms, it reflects the habits of some colonies and even social animals. When the zombies are among the corpses, their actions are consistent and even show some wisdom. However, for the corpses studied in the laboratory, even the reproductive instinct is weakening, and the stress is also getting worse. So I suspect that this virus may be controlled in a similar way to biological populations, where the mother of the virus can somehow remotely control them. Zhang Yi sat up straight from the sofa. Remote control? Zhao Ke quickly waved her hand. Of course, it doesn't mean a very long distance. For example, animals can convey messages through smell, and this mutated virus must also have a way for them to convey messages. Zhang Yi said, "Do you mean that, as long as the mother is killed, these infected zombies will also die?" Zhao Ke shook his head. "It's hard to say. At least it won't become what it is now. It can act on a large scale, and has a certain amount of wisdom." Wisdom. These 2 words sounded like thunder in Zhang Yi's mind. His eyes lit up, and he finally discovered the reason for that sense of disobedience. "I seem to understand something." He put his hand in and explained to everyone, "Have you noticed that the attacks of the corpse tide in the past 2 days seem to be ferocious, but also seem to have a certain degree of wisdom? But in fact, the zombie group's style of play is quite naive, and they always choose to retreat after some zombies are killed. This feeling is like a 2 or 3-year-old child who is slowly learning to speak. He can only take it slowly, 1 word at a time." When Zhang Yi said this, everyone felt that it was very reasonable. The group of corpses still looked stupid. Even if they were attacked by flamethrowers, they would not choose to disperse the attack. But he also knows how to avoid Zhang Yi's dimensional door and choose to run away when he senses that the situation is not good. There is wisdom, but not much really. Wait a minute, Zhang Yi. I seem to understand what you are talking about. The one who spoke was Liang Yu. She folded her arms, eyes full of caution. You mean to say that our opponents may be intelligent zombies? It may have mutated after human death, or the mutated virus became the mother after occupying the human body. In short, it has just acquired wisdom and is still learning how humans fight. Zhang Yi thought in his heart that this guess was very possible. That kind of fighting method is not like that of a human being with normal IQ, but it is not completely brainless. If there is such a thing, it should be the existence that can be called the Corpse King. After all, we have confirmed 2 conditions for obtaining supernatural powers. One is near death, and the other is a stimulation of foreign objects like ice. Then, it is not impossible to obtain supernatural powers after death. A brief flashback appeared in Zhang Yi's mind, but he didn't tell anyone the secret. Chapter 431 Infinite Evolution. After 2 battles, Zhang Yi and his party also obtained certain information about this mysterious wave of corpses. They move fast, are as powerful as beasts, and can't be killed outright with just a headshot. Even showed some intelligence. But so far, they are only guessing as to whether there is a Corpse King commanding behind the group of corpses, and they are still unable to determine. Zhang Yi propped his chin with both hands, and his eyes were shining with calm light. He said in a low tone, if it is true that the corpse mutated and gained wisdom, then the next attack will continue. We have the opportunity to collect more information. It is necessary to pay attention to every detail of their actions, to find the means to deal with them. It's just that, first of all, we must clean up the corpse tied in the surrounding area as soon as possible. Their existence is a huge safety hazard. If the corpses are not wiped out, they will continue to harass them. It is difficult to guarantee that there will be no accidents. If the enemy is a person, Zhang Yi is not afraid. People are in awe, knowing that they can't beat Zhang Yi. They won't harass again. But these zombies who are not afraid of death, if they can't kill you, won't they still disgust you? Zhang Yi was unwilling to keep this danger by his side, so he decided to solve the problem as soon as possible. Of course, just these troubles in the area around him. However, there is another problem. Liang Yu put the long and narrow Tang Dao by her hand and leaned on the sofa with her arms crossed. If the corpse mutated and produced intelligence, it became a monster capable of controlling a large number of zombies. Then how did it cause riots in various areas of Xianhe City at the same time? Zhang Yi smiled very bachelorly. I do not know. Yang Xingxin, who had been silent all this time, said lightly at this time, subway. These two words brought light to everyone's eyes. None of them had ever entered the ground tens of meters deep. But it can be judged that the temperature underground is higher than that on the surface, and the transportation is convenient. Yang Xingxin raised her head, her amber eyes shone with wisdom. She analyzed in a cold tone, we know that the nearest zombie activity area is Sigwa subway station. The subway in Xianhe City extends in all directions, and can lead to any area. So zombies also move to various areas through the subway. As for whether this was intentional or careless, we still have to make a judgment in the future. Zhang Yi rested his chin in one hand and nodded thoughtfully. This can also explain clearly why the group of corpses we are facing is the smallest. The location of Young Manor is relatively remote, and only the subway line of Sikwa passes through. Then, Zhang Yi said to Yang Xingxin, Xingxin, continue to observe the situation of several other forces. I need to know what the situation of zombies is like in their place. These things, sooner or later we have to find a way to get rid of them once and for all. Yang Xingxin smiled and nodded, of course. However, life is not easy for them right now. The three major bases all have underground shelters, but they also have important facilities on the ground. Think steelworks and refineries, or port bases on the coast. These are the foundations of several major bases. It is absolutely impossible to easily let go out and be destroyed by the zombies. They will definitely stick to it. In this case, it is inevitable to fight the zombies all the time. It was even worse for Snow Worship Cult. The living environment was not bad, and the battle with zombies was particularly severe. After all, they don't even have fortifications that can stop the corpses. Zhang Yi chuckled lightly and said disapprovingly, we can't worry about these problems. If they don't want the strong men to cut off their wrists, they can keep fighting with the zombies. Especially the Snow Worship Cult. Their number of followers is increasing, which already makes me feel a little threatened. It's not a bad thing for us that they cut some of their staff during this crisis. Everyone's brains were wide open, discussing how other forces would deal with the tide of corpses. Human sorrows and joys are not interlinked. In particular, the relationship between Zhang Yi's team and other forces is not good. So seeing them being overwhelmed by the tide of corpses made Zhang Yi feel good. In the afternoon, Zhang Yi and Uncle Yu came to the gate of the shelter. They poured a lot of gasoline on the ground. Now that it is known that the body of the zombie is some kind of mutated virus, it is easy to deal with it. Inactivating it with flames can easily kill a large number of zombies. The third round of corpse wave attack came faster than expected. This time, it was midnight. Fortunately, Zhang Yi and the others had already made preparations. They didn't dare to sleep too much and arranged a vigil at night. So after the tide of corpses struck, they immediately prepared to go out to fight. Have you switched to attacking at night? Did you realize that it is easier for us to fight during the day, or is it a coincidence? Zhang Yi carried the flamethrower on his back and went downstairs cautiously. But this time, they clearly felt that the attacking route of the zombies had changed. They were no longer surrounded in groups like the previous two times, but scattered on the snowfield, approaching the shelter like a swarm of locusts. It seems they have really learned to be smart. Uncle Yu sighed with a cigarette in his mouth. In this way, the effect of the gas aligned positions they arranged in advance will not be so great. It's a bad thing, but it's also a good thing. At least our guess is right. Zhang Yi looked coldly at the tide of corpses on the snowfield. He was sure that behind the tide of corpses, there must be a corpse king controlling everything. Every time they fought, the opponent would change their combat style according to their style of play. Although they look clumsy at the beginning, both the corpse king and the zombie will continue to grow. One day, they have mastered all the fighting methods of Zhang Yi and others. Then Zhang Yi and others can only hide in the shelter, and it is difficult to step out. Even zombies have learned to gather information these days. Zhang Yi exhaled a puff of white smoke, and then put on the visor of his helmet. Then next, I have to verify one thing. He said to Liang Yu and the others, kill all the zombies this time, don't leave a single one behind. After he finished speaking, he jumped on Huahua's back. Let's outflank the back of the corpses. A rifle appeared in Zhang Yi's hand. In the face of this kind of undead zombie, it is best to smash it with a sprayer. Uncle Yu laughed loudly and said, okay, then let's have a good kill today. Fatty Zhu curled his lips. It's so fun to kill a bunch of corpses. Uncle Yu was not angry. Instead he said to Fatty Zhu, Zhu, there are so many live targets, you should use them to practice hard. Fatty Zhu didn't answer, but started to act, summoning a large-scale snowstorm in front of the shelter. Raw, the zombies let out piercing screams from their throats, and when they found Zhang Yi and the others, they suddenly ran towards them desperately. Several people already had experience in dealing with them, so they no longer panicked at this time. Fatty Zhu created a blizzard to temporarily make the zombies lose their target and slow down their actions. Then, Uncle Yu started to use a flamethrower and burned the rows of zombies like insecticide. Liang Yu held the tang knife in his hand, and the dark blue light extended from the knife for a full 3 meters, shuttling around the corpses like a blue lightning. No matter how fast the zombies are, they can't beat the aliens of the reinforcement system. As long as they weren't surrounded by them like last time, they couldn't do anything to Liang Yu at all. And Liang Yu's knife opened and closed, splitting them all in half from head to crotch. Make sure they can't get up and attack again. As for Zhang Yi, he rode Huahu and circled behind the corpses from another direction. The sprayer in his hand doesn't hit the head or the body, it only hits the lower 3 lanes. With the rifles, blessed by supernatural powers, the attack power at close range is very terrifying, and their lower bodies can be easily smashed to pieces. Meow Huahu raised her head and winked at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi understood and jumped off it. Huahua's black hair turned into hard steel needles, and then the whole cat swarmed into a huge black ball, crashing towards the middle of the corpses. This is comparable to a giant tank running over the corpses, and the black hair turned into knives, cutting the zombies to pieces. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432 Backhand. If we say that before, Zhang Yi and others were still a little afraid of the zombie tide, so they didn't dare to give it a go. So this time, they basically figured out the true strength of these zombies. They have stronger speed and strength than ordinary people, but after all, they are far inferior to aliens. Zhang Yi and the others are the top alien team in Xianhei City. If they really want to fight, it will not be a problem to deal with these thousands of zombies. 4 people and 1 beast adopt the method of guerrilla warfare, like a shepherd dog herding sheep, surround the tide of corpses, and then destroy them. But these zombies were not aware of Zhang Yi's and others' intentions, and were still following their offensive instinct to attack them. The result is to be killed on a large scale. Zhang Yi held a spray gun in his hand, and he could smash 5 or 6 zombies with one shot from a distance. With an 8-fold acceleration, it is impossible for him to be overtaken by these zombies. Huahu and Liang Yu were on the periphery, harvesting the zombies as quickly as they cut flesh. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu on the front face each other, with both field control and large-scale AoE effects. While killing the zombies, Zhang Yi observed the condition of the group of corpses. He wanted to confirm whether the Corpse King was among the corpses, or is it able to control corpses from farther away, because in theory, the Corpse King has a higher level of wisdom. Once it finds itself in danger of death, it will choose to run away. Sure enough, when the number of zombies killed in battle reached half, the tide of zombies suddenly began to riot. They turned around and ran towards the way they came, which is the direction of Sigwa subway station. It's all here. Why are you in a hurry to leave? Zhang Yi said with a sneer. The back road has already been cut off by him and Huata. It's not that simple for these zombies to escape. One person and one cat blocked the retreat of the group of corpses and began to slaughter wildly. Huata turned into a black blade chariot, and it was very effective against these unkillable things, directly cutting them into pieces. And Zhang Yi used the rifle with supernatural powers to smash zombies. Coupled with the containment of Fatty Zoo's ice and snowstorm, it made it difficult for the corpse tide to move. After half an hour of fighting, this batch of zombies was almost wiped out by them. Zhang Yi deliberately left a zombie, but cut off its hands, and cut off its jaw. Now the zombie's lower jaw has been completely cut off, and the teeth on the upper jaw have also been shaved off, so there is absolutely no way to hurt people. Boss, what's the plan? Fatty Zoo and the others came together, wondering what Zhang Yi's next plan was. Zhang Yi took out an infrared camera from his body and put it directly into the zombie's eyeball with a pucci. After this wave of trials, I can basically conclude that the Corpse King is not in the tide of corpses, but he can also control the movement of the tide of corpses. The main purpose of these zombies is not to destroy us, but to collect our information and then pass it back to the Corpse King. Every time they hit halfway, and then the surviving zombies pass the information back. If things go on like this, they will understand us more and more. When we have fully mastered our combat skills, I'm afraid that the real big army will come. There was a sneer on Zhang Yi's mouth, and his eyes were full of frost. So we have to take the initiative to do things, not follow their rhythm. Let this guy help us investigate what's in the depths of the subway. Several people around understood what Zhang Yi meant. Liang Yu immediately asked, you mean, investigate the situation deep in the subway, and then look for opportunities to destroy the zombies' lair? Zhang Yi replied without hesitation, if there is a suitable opportunity, we must do it. After all, we have seen that the attacking methods of zombies are improving a little bit. I can't guarantee that one day they will not adapt to our fighting methods. That is extremely dangerous for us. The best defense is an offense, and we need to strike first. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he kicked the zombie away. It quickly got up from the snow, and then ran towards the direction of Sigwa subway station without looking back. Next, let's see how much good news this little brother can bring us. Zhang Yi smiled and watched the zombie carrying an infrared probe go away. After a while, he turned and returned to the shelter. Liang Yu lowered her head and thought about something, and followed Zhang Yi back. In fact, so far, these zombies have not posed any threat to them. According to Liang Yu's past personality, he might have chosen to go deep into the subway to kill all the zombies. After all, the fighting power they displayed was not that strong. But Zhang Yi taught her a good lesson. Even if you have a strong strength, you must go all out and stay vigilant when facing an unknown opponent. Only in this way can we survive in this world full of unknowns. When everyone returned to the house, Zhang Yi immediately turned on the TV and then checked the images received by the infrared probe. The zombie flew all the way, and after 10 minutes, it arrived at the entrance of Sigwa subway station. It jumped down along the deep hole, and after a few seconds, the stable picture was restored in the camera. In the middle of the night, everything is so blurry. Infrared probes can detect the thermal reaction between living things and non-living things, but once no living things appear, the field of vision is still pitch black. So for quite a long time, all Zhang Yi and others saw was a pitch black picture. I don't know how long it took before a bright red light appeared in the line of sight. Humanoid light 1, 2, 3. A group of zombies appeared densely in the underground space. Soon everyone's field of vision was filled with red light, and they couldn't even see the human figure because everything in front of them was dark red. Different from the bright red color of normal humans, these are the corpses of dead people, but because they were invaded by weird zombie viruses, they reflect the energy representation of a part of the living body. For the next period of time, the field of vision in the screen was completely occupied by this dark red color. I could feel my sight moving, but after a long time, the surrounding light not only didn't weaken, but strengthened instead. These are all zombies hidden in the subway tunnels. How many zombies are there underground? Fatty Zoo couldn't help but speak. Just imagine how many people died in Cheyenne City. Uncle Yu replied. Will all the dead people in Cheyenne City turn into zombies? Then, what about us? Fatty Zoo hugged his body tightly in fear, like a delicate 200 girl. His appearance more or less made people want to beat him up. Yang Xingxin explained next to him. It's not yet possible to make such a judgment. A corpse needs to be parasitized by a virus to become a zombie. However, given enough time, I believe that day will not be too far away. Zhang Yi smiled helplessly. Indeed. There are too many dead people in Cheyenne City. Even if we collect all kinds of corpses in advance, it is impossible to recover all the more than 1,000 million corpses. Then, they may become zombies. So let's solve it from the source now. Get rid of the Mother Corpse King, and we will save a lot of trouble. While Zhang Yi was speaking, a heat source with an obviously larger body proportion suddenly appeared in the screen. Humanoid, but taller and more slender. According to the proportions of the zombies next to it, it was almost 3 meters tall and thin like a large stick insect. Everyone subconsciously held their breath and looked carefully at the camera. Suddenly, a big pale face suddenly appeared in the camera, with an extremely weird smile on the corner of his mouth. Chapter 433 Take the Initiative. Everyone was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the strange face, especially the timid women, who couldn't help screaming. Zhao Ke and Yang Mi hugged Zhang Yi tightly and leaned against him desperately. Because this is not watching a horror movie, but real zombies. The video also stopped abruptly at this time, leaving only a large snowflake on the screen. Everyone was taken aback, including Zhang Yi. But it wasn't because he was afraid. It was simply because he didn't expect such a thing to pop up suddenly. Discovered. Zhang Yi said. But soon, he suddenly laughed. But this also shows that our judgment is correct. There are indeed intelligent creatures down there. The Corpse King is there. I have found it. That big pale face is most likely the Corpse King. If you don't kill it, the crisis in shelters won't stop. Fatty Zoo hurriedly asked, but how can we kill that Corpse King? There are too many zombies underground. We are fully armed and going to clean up. I don't know how long it will take to clean up. Yang Xingxin also mentioned. Moreover, the subway tunnels extend in all directions, and the Corpse King has wisdom and will escape when he finds something is wrong. Zhang Yi crossed his arms and said in a deep voice, if you want to do it, you have to do it once and for all. Although there are many zombies, their combat power is limited. As long as we want to kill them, no matter how many they are, it won't be a problem. But they must be prevented from escaping. Therefore, we must start from the subway. Liang Yu suggested, we can start from the position of Songzhuang and blow up the tunnel there. This will also block the back of the corpses. Our goal is to kill the Corpse King, as long as it can't escape. As for other zombies, we have many ways to get rid of them. Uncle Yu crossed his arms and said to Zhang Yi with a smile, Zhang Yi, what to do? You should come up with an idea. Anyway, there is no way to avoid this battle. Yes, this battle is unavoidable. If they don't take the initiative to fight, sooner or later those zombies will become more and more intelligent. After the hordes of corpses have learned about all their weaknesses, they will continue to attack tirelessly. Sooner or later, even this shelter stronger than steel will be breached. Too many ants can kill an elephant. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, leaning on the soft sofa, thinking about the feasibility of this approach. After a while, he said, get ready, we will act tomorrow. Every night and day, the Corpse King may become stronger. Why not take the initiative to attack before it grows up? This time the action is still their main 5-member group. All kinds of equipment are ready made, including weapons and ammunition, gas masks, and supernatural food that Yang Mi makes every day. Relying on these things, it is enough to support them to fight continuously for a week underground. Everyone nodded without any comments. They also don't want to spend time and effort cleaning up zombies every day. But Fatty Zoo looked at Zhang Yi, but said with some concern, Boss, are you in such a hurry? This isn't like your style. In the past, no matter what Zhang Yi did, he was extremely stable. What Zhang Yi did this time made Fatty Zhu feel a little reckless. They don't know anything about the underground situation, so it's really appropriate to just plunge in like this? What if something happens underground? I mean, we don't know much about the situation underground. Maybe we underestimated the fighting power of the corpse group. Fatty Zhu, who is most afraid of death, is also the most cautious. He is even more cautious than Zhang Yi most of the time. But this is also his greatest weakness. Zhang Yi is a dog, and Fatty Zhu is a coward. So Fatty Zhu will miss many opportunities. Zhang Yi smiled mysteriously, walked over and patted Fatty Zhu on the shoulder, and gave him a confident smile. Don't worry, I won't make fun of everyone's safety. I'm fully prepared, and you'll understand when the time comes. Fatty Zhu saw Zhang Yi's eyes. It was as usual, gentle as jade, and full of confidence. Fatty Zhu's heart settled down, and he asked with a smile, "Boss, why are you being so secretive? Can't you tell us directly?" Zhang Yi smiled and said, "You just need to know that I can take you out even in the most dangerous situation." It is not convenient for him to say the specific aspects now. Liang Yu tilted her head to look at Zhang Yi and suddenly seemed to understand something. "I understand. Since this is the case, then we don't have any worries, right?" Yang Mi sat up from the sofa, said with a smile, "Then I'll prepare some food for you." Zhang Yi nodded. "Okay, the more the better." Zhang Yi also gradually figured out Yang Mi's ability. The power poured into food can help aliens recover their powers, and the effect of helping ordinary people recover their physical strength is also very significant. But if it is kept for a week at most, the ability will pass away from the food. It's just that, after placing it in Zhang Yi's different space, this problem is perfectly solved. So up to now, Zhang Yi asked Yang Mi to use up all his abilities to make supernatural food every day. He didn't know how much supernatural food was stored in his different space. This is also one of the reasons why he dared to take people deep into the subway tunnel to fight. On Zhang Yi's side, the situation is developing in a good direction. At least they even basically grasped the law of action of the corpse group and confirmed the existence of such a thing as the corpse king. But the words are divided into two parts, and the other forces will be miserable. Due to the existence of the corpse king, the corpse group has a very high ability to learn and evolve. With each round of attack, their combat effectiveness is improving, and they will adjust their combat methods specifically according to the situation of each force. Unlike Zhang Yi and the others, the four major powers have a small number of people and follow the route of an elite team. They have too many surface buildings to defend, and there are a large number of soldiers, laborers, and slaves. On the contrary, they have no good way to deal with the ever-evolving zombies. The method of repelling the zombies for the first time, but the second time I used it, I found that it was no longer so easy to use. But the zombies are like locusts, they can't be killed, no matter how they are killed. It took a lot of energy to repel a wave of attacks today, and when I opened my tired eyes the next day, they came again. Zhao Hanglian, Crossing Cheyenne, and Wading Hay were all devastated. It is impossible for them to give up their oil refineries and steelworks and seaport bases. Otherwise, leave them behind and go to the underground base. Once the gate is closed, those zombies will not be able to enter. But the problem is, those resources are their lifeblood. If they really want to give up, they will completely lose their qualifications to compete in Cheyenne City in the future. It is precisely because of this that they would rather bear the attack of zombies every day and have to fight desperately. However, facing the hordes of corpses that could continue to evolve, their defense methods also began to become weak. The fence allows the zombies to learn to climb the wall, and the barbed wire does not cause much damage to the frozen zombies. Firearms are basically useless and can only be destroyed with blunt and heavy firearms. Later, they basically relied on heavy firearms and the powerful combat power of aliens to destroy the zombies abruptly. Gradually, Zhao Hanglian and others also realized that something was wrong. These zombies are weird, not like Walking Dead, but like an organized and disciplined swarm. Chapter 434 Heading to the Crypt. The leaders of several major forces are not fools. Of course they know that what they encountered this time is not a brainless zombie. However, although they knew this situation, they were at their wits' end. After all, just coping with the attack of the corpses every day has already consumed a lot of their troops, separate a part of the elite, to investigate the lair of the corpse group, not to mention how dangerous it is. It's just that it's difficult to deal with the division of troops at this time, in case the base camp is attacked. Therefore, even if crossing Cheyenne and Weidinghe knew that going on like this was not a long-term solution, they did not dare to send troops to investigate rashly. But Xiao Han practiced courage. She has always had a fiery personality, daring to fight and fight hard. When she was still working in the Cheyenne City Police Station, she relied on this, and her father was a high-level leader, so she was promoted all the way. We can't sit still. If this continues, within a month, we will have to abandon the refinery and go underground to avoid the tide of corpses. Xiao Hanglian sat on a steel pipe, covered in blood. They have just repelled a wave of zombie attacks. Relying on her powerful purgatory furnace and the huge energy pool of Yangsheng base, they can deal with zombies faster than other forces. But this kind of continuous harassment, as well as the increasingly intelligent corpses, made her feel deeply uneasy, just like Zhang Yi. She also fears that the horde will grow wiser and wiser, until one day they will be powerless to deal with. Even at that time, hiding underground cannot avoid the fate of being killed by corpses. Zhuge Qingting walked over. His white combat uniform was also dripping with blood at this time. However, he still stood upright and saluted Xiao Han with a standard military salute. Boss, all the zombies have been cleaned up. As long as this thing is burned, it will die completely. However, we also lost 67 warriors and slaves. Xiao Hanglian raised her head and glanced at him. Her fiery red eyes exuded a sharp light, which was the lingering aftertaste of her ability. We have to change our game. We can't be passive all the time. Zhuge Qingting's pupils shrank. You mean, are we going to take the initiative to go to the zombies' lair? Xiao Hanglian nodded. The zombies' actions are obviously controlled by someone. It may be a strange person, or some other intelligent creature. In short, we must obtain enough intelligence to know how to completely resolve this crisis. Zhuge Qingting frowned, but it's too dangerous to do this. We don't even know how big the corpse group is. If you rush to investigate, the whole army may be wiped out. The situation of the other companies is not optimistic. We might as well wait and see for a while. Maybe they can solve this problem. Xiao Hanglian sneered. Look at the scale of this wave of corpses. I don't think they will be too relaxed, especially the snow worship cult. Those idiots have gathered tens of thousands of people, and they are simply collecting lunch for the zombies. We can't rely on anyone. They want us to die. We have to rely on ourselves. Zhuge Qingting could not refute Xiao Hanglian's words. It is obviously irrational to place hope on hostile forces. Xiao Han stood up. Let's make this decision. Let Deng Hu take 2 aliens and 30 elite fighters to investigate the zombies' lair. Bexagio's side actually had the most uneventful life. They have too many congregants, most of whom are ordinary people. Although able to survive in the last days until now, they all have certain life-saving capabilities. But their fighting strength is not enough when they are facing creatures like zombies. They may not be afraid of death, but they do not want to die. How could a person with this mentality defeat a dead monster? Even though Zhang Yi organized everyone to strictly guard against death, every time a wave of corpses struck, a large number of believers would die in the mouths of zombies. Slowly, the congregation began to show dissatisfaction. Priest Wu Huan found Zhang Yi and told him some rhythms he had heard recently. The number of congregants who have died now has reached more than 1,000. Those congregants who were infected may also mutate. This has seriously shaken the faith of the newcomers. If this continues, something will happen. Zhang Yi listened, but there was no fluctuation on his face. With his hands behind his back, he just said calmly, "It doesn't matter, they just complained, and they didn't dare to take any substantive actions. In the past few days, you have arranged some of our people to spread the news among the congregation. Just tell them that almost all the survivors from the outside world were killed by zombies. Without the protection of snow worship cult, they have no power to fight back when faced with zombie attacks. And other forces are retreating in the face of the tide of corpses, and the number of casualties is even higher. They are even close to the verge of collapse. Well, just say that more than half of the people in other forces have died. After hearing Zhang Yi's words, Woohoo's eyes lit up. This is wonderful. There is no harm without contrast. As long as they think that there are corpses everywhere outside, they will feel that their current life is not bad. They will not complain about our snow cult. Zhang Yi glanced at him. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The reason why they still complain is because they are not devout enough to the snow worship cult. The education of them must also be accelerated to make them devout believers. In this way they will understand that they should be able to join the snow worship cult at this time, and they should be happy. Woohoo clapped his hands excitedly. It has to be you, High Priest. I understand. I'll arrange someone to do it right away. Among the new believers, they arranged for some old believers to be responsible for teaching them the teachings and brainwashing them. For religion, this is an essential procedure. On the other side, Zhang Yi brought the most powerful combat force in the entire sanctuary and was ready to enter the subway passage to find the mysterious Corpse King. 4 people, 1 cat, all armed to the teeth. Now their equipment has all been upgraded. The combat uniforms everyone wore were versions improved by Le Caron. The defense ability is extremely strong, and it can even withstand the bullets of small sniper rifles. Not to mention the bite of the zombies, which is not even a tickle for it. In order to cope with the long-term battle, everyone also carried a large amount of food with supernatural powers. As for other materials, there is no need to carry them. Because they have been obediently staying in Zhang Yi's different space, they can be easily taken out at any time if they want to use them. It is very convenient to have a space system teammate by his side, no matter what time of day. 4 people and 1 cat arrived at the entrance of Sigwa subway station in a vehicle, looking at the dark hole in front of him. Before setting off, Zhang Yi once again stated the battle plan to several people. Killing the Corpse King is our primary goal this time. As long as I can find it, I'm % sure to kill it. In a narrow space like an underground tunnel, within 300 meters, Shenwei can destroy everything. However, all of this must be based on our personal safety. Don't go too aggressively to fight the corpses. It doesn't make sense to kill more of those things. Everyone nodded, indicating that they were very clear. Then Zhang Yi took out a fluorescent stick from his waist, pulled out the cover, and threw it at the entrance of the cave. Soon, the blue fluorescent stick fell to the ground, reflecting the black blood-stained ground around it. Uncle Yu, go down first, Zhang Yi said to Uncle Yu. As the meat tank with the strongest defense in the team, it is safest to let Uncle Yu go down. Without saying a word, Uncle Yu slid down the cave. A few seconds later, he landed on the ground and first carefully looked around. Through the tactical eyepiece, he didn't see any biological reaction, so he told Zhang Yi through the communication device, "It's safe below, you can come here." Zhang Yi and the others slid down the cave. After they landed on the ground, they observed the surrounding scene. They haven't come to the subway yet. This is just the entrance of the subway. Through the night vision function of the tactical eyepiece, the underground scene is clearly presented in front of everyone. Although they have all experienced many big scenes, seeing the scene in front of them still makes them feel a little creepy. There were black blood stains all over the walls, and there were even viscera stuck to the walls. The feet were sticky, with torn internal organs and blackened blood, mixed with mud, exuding an extremely fishy smell. Good thing they are wearing tactical helmets that filter out the bad smell. Let's go. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "The second canal is the terminal. As long as you walk forward along here, you will be able to find traces of the corpses. The Corpse King's intelligence is not high, and he is still growing, so he won't hide it too deeply, and he should be able to find it." As they moved forward, a large number of mutilated skeletons gradually appeared in the dark subway. The stump and broken arm have no flesh and blood on them, and are covered with fine tooth marks. It should be the bones eaten by zombies. Everyone walked past the bones, and Fatty Zoo said with a broken mouth, "I'm curious, why didn't they choose to infect them into zombies after eating these corpses?" Holding a rifle in his hand, Zhang Yi carefully observed his surroundings and replied, "The instinct of zombies is just to eat, and infection is a passive ability. I think they are probably too hungry, so they eat more. You can't expect the corpses that have been gnawed into bones to mutate, right?" Fatty Zoo said, "It can be seen that they have a lot of appetite. After all, judging from their behavior patterns, they must eat a lot." He suddenly asked curiously, "Hey, tell me, there are more dead people than living people in Cheyenne City. If there are more than 1,000 million zombies, wouldn't there be nothing to eat?" Zhang Yi's footsteps paused, and Liang Yu and Uncle Yu also looked at each other in blank dismay. They hadn't considered this issue before. After all, they were all concentrating on their 1-acre 3-point land. Yeah, what would those zombies do if they didn't get enough food? Will it spread from Cheyenne City to other cities? Chapter 435. Zhang Yi raised his footsteps again and walked forward. "It's none of our business, anyway. Now we just need to ensure that there are no zombies around the shelter. In the last days, how could one have the leisure to care about others?" Fatty Zoo nodded. "That's true." A few people walked forward without haste. Since they set off from the starting station, there is no need to worry about zombie attacks behind them. You only need to move forward step by step, and sooner or later you will be able to find the location of the corpses. They walked for a long time and saw densely packed corpses on the road. All of them were bones. Not even a trace of flesh and blood could be seen. Their mouths are so good. Even if they gnaw bones, they can't gnaw them so clean. Fatty Zoo's talkative personality flared up again. Maybe it was because everyone was silent and the atmosphere seemed a little tense. He wanted to liven up the atmosphere. "Look at this bone. The meat in the seam of the bone has been gnawed clean. Hey, no food is wasted at all." Uncle Yu replied casually, "Maybe it's rotten." Fatty Zoo said, "Uncle, how can the meat rot in such a cold weather? Have you never eaten zombie meat? It can be sold after being frozen in the freezer for a year or two." "Fuck, that's disgusting." After Fatty Zoo's gag, the atmosphere of the few people really became less tense. Huahua walked in the front with her tail drooping. The sense of smell of cats is much stronger than that of humans, so it is the main force in searching for corpses. A few people were walking when suddenly Huahua's eyes widened like copper bells, and she whimpered vigilantly. "Notice." Zhang Yi immediately raised the gun in his hand. A black shadow flickered ahead. Before Zhang Yi could shoot, Liang Yu suddenly pulled out a short knife from his waist and threw it backhanded. The knife shot a black shadow like lightning, nailing it to the ground. Zhang Yi put down his gun and tried not to shoot at such a time, so as not to startle the snake. A few people walked over cautiously, and when they saw the appearance of the thing clearly, everyone gasped. The thing that Liang Yu stuck with a short knife was a grey rodent. It was grey and looked like a puppy at first glance. But when they saw its slender tail and long mouth, everyone recognized that it was a huge mouse. "This is a mouse. This is bigger than a cat." Fatty Zoo was so frightened that he wanted to eat his hands. "That's right. This mouse is twice as big as Huahua." Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Mutated rat. Not surprising. A normal mouse can grow to the size of a cat if it is given enough food. But the size of the mouse in front of him was obviously too big, and it must have mutated. Zhang Yi thought of the corpses he saw along the way, and suddenly realized, the corpses we saw before were all eaten by rats. Fatty Zoo recalled it for a while, and murmured, "There are so many corpses, there must be a group of rats here." As soon as these words came out, a layer of haze appeared in the hearts of everyone, especially Liang Yu. There was something wrong with the expression on his face. Although she is a resolute martial arts master, girls instinctively dislike things like mice. If a swarm of rats does show up at this time, Huahua suddenly stretched her neck and let out a shrill cry. Meow. The deep voice was full of deterrence, and it was the sound that would only be made when encountering a strong enemy. At the same time, in the long and narrow tunnel, the sound of squeak came from every corner, echoing in the tunnel continuously. "This time I really entered the mouse's nest," Zhang Yi said helplessly. From every corner, a large number of giant rats emerged like a stream of water. The small ones are just normal size, the big ones are like kittens and puppies, and there are even white mice as huge as piglets among the grey rats. Gross. Liang Yu couldn't help shouting, and her hair stood on end. However, Zhang Yi noticed that the eyes of those mice were filled with a strange red color. It is said that these are the eyes of beasts that ate human flesh. You don't need to think about it. What feeds these dark sewer creatures can survive until now. Huahua kept making threatening moaning noises, and all the hair on her body exploded. Although cats are the natural enemies of mice, but in the case of completely unequal numbers, it is difficult for this deterrent to have a substantial effect. Zhang Yi said, clean them up first. Although he came to kill the corpse king, but in this situation, it is obviously inevitable, so let's kill him. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu each held a flamethrower and fired directly at the front and back. Killing zombies is killing. Killing mice is also killing. Fortunately, although these mice have mutated, they are not as scary as zombies. After the flames burned thousands of mice to death, the subsequent mice immediately retreated out of the range of the flames in fright. It's just that this vicious creature didn't leave, but stared at Zhang Yi and the others in the shadows. As soon as the flame goes out, they will immediately rush. In the darkness, there are shadows of mice everywhere, densely packed, and I don't know how many there are. If this goes on, I don't know when they will be resolved. Not to mention going to find the Mouse King. Zhang Yi frowned and said to Fatty Zhu and Uncle Yu, put away the flamethrower. When the two heard this, although they didn't know what Zhang Yi was going to do, they stopped immediately. As soon as the flames were extinguished, the swarm of rats let out a piercing cry and immediately surged crazily, like two grey rivers. Zhang Yi stood in the middle of the tunnel, spreading his hands forward and backward. Double doors. The next moment, two huge dimensional gates lay directly on both sides of the tunnel, blocking the entire tunnel. The swarm of rats rushed into the different space one after another, and none of them could rush to the side of the few people. Liang Yu breathed a sigh of relief and patted her firm chest hard, but all of them looked at Zhang Yi curiously. Your dimensional gate has been upgraded? Zhang Yi said, I have been studying the usage of the gate of dimension. After the last war, I have been able to use two gates of dimension at the same time. It's also convenient. Liang Yu said, being able to open two doors, you can have two directions of defense and invincibility. Although it still can't reach the absolute defense, but in the big melee, the improvement can be far more than doubled. For example, under the current terrain, it is absolute defense. The swarm of rats frantically poured into the different dimensional space. This cunning creature looked at the same kind that disappeared in front of it and slowly discovered the smell of danger. But the group of rats in front wanted to stop, but was squeezed forward by the group of rats behind and squeezed into the different space. In this way, they made a miserable howl to remind the same kind behind them. After paying the price of an unknown number of mice, the subsequent mice also sensed the crisis and stopped moving forward. They looked at Zhang Yi and the others in the middle of the tunnel with fear, like a grey river cut off in the middle. Among the group of rats, a giant rat covered in white hair screamed urgently. Then all the giant rats quickly turned around and began to retreat. After a while, the mouse in the shadows completely disappeared. They also know that they have encountered a powerful enemy and dare not attack again. Chapter 436. After repelling the swarm of rats, several people walked forward as usual. It's just some rats that look bigger, which may be a little threatening to ordinary people. But among the group of people who came today, which one is not a powerful alien? Therefore, Zhang Yi and the others were not affected much. It's just that Zhang Yi was a little worried. I don't know if the zombies will be alert when the rats make such a fuss. Liang Yu frowned. These rats and zombies are all located underground. What kind of relationship is it like? Who knows? Keep going. Zhang Yi has no time to think about it now. The underground space doesn't give people a good feeling, and he doesn't want to stay longer. Several people moved forward, speeding up their movements. It's just that they can always feel that there are countless pairs of eyes watching them in the dark. These dark underground creatures haven't completely given up yet, waiting for an opportunity to attack them. Zhang Yi didn't bother to pay attention to them either. It wasn't until he found the bitten and shattered combat uniform in a corner of the tunnel that he was a little scared. That teeth are a bit powerful and they can bite through ordinary combat uniforms. It's better to keep some distance from them. Fatty Zhu said worriedly, will rats hold grudges? If they follow us out at that time, it will be troublesome. Probably not for the time being. The underground is humid and warm, and it's freezing outside. These mice are not Arctic lemmings. Even if they can tolerate the cold, they won't be so stupid as to run a few kilometers away to trouble us. In the subway tunnel outside the Yangsheng base, Deng Hu came here with a group of elite soldiers to investigate intelligence. But not long after advancing, they were attacked by rats. Crazy swarms of rats surrounded them from all directions, rushing towards them with red eyes and neighing. The sharp teeth were like knives, piercing their protective clothing. What? These mice are monsters. Be careful, don't be bitten by them, they can bite through our protective clothing. The soldiers screamed one after another, and had to use flamethrowers and rifles to kill the rats frantically. The three aliens headed by Zhang Hu did not dare to hold back, and roared angrily to activate their abilities. Zhang Hu's ability is Flame Fist. His fists can release raging flames in the way of release, and the high temperature flames can instantly burn a group of rats to ashes. After more than 10 minutes of fighting, they fought off the rats with difficulty. However, 8 soldiers under his command had already died under the sharp teeth of the mutant giant rat. Many soldiers were also seriously injured. Zhang Hu's face was full of haze. Not long after they entered the underground tunnel, they hadn't found the corpses yet, and they were beaten into such a mess by the mutated giant rat first. A soldier opened the giant rat's mouth and couldn't help but gasp when he saw the huge rodent with a gloomy glow. There are such monsters in the underground. If they also run to the base, they will be even more difficult to deal with than zombies. Zhang Hu's face was gloomy, and after a moment of silence, he said, "Go ahead. Our goal is to find the corpses and obtain their information. Before that, no matter what difficulties we encounter, we have to overcome them." Even if he was allowed to go back now, he would have no face to see Zhao Honglian. On Zhang Yi's side, after cleaning up the rats, several people walked all the way, walked for a long time, and passed 2 stations. Finally, when they reached the 3rd subway station, they found the corpses. They didn't hide, and they didn't attack a few people. Instead, they lay densely in the tunnel like people who had slept to death. Looking around, the depths of the long and narrow tunnel are full of zombies. They are sleeping. Uncle Yu lowered his voice and said, "It's reasonable." Zhang Yi said in a low voice, "Even as the host of the virus, it takes energy to move. So when they don't get orders, they lurk in the dark to rest." Uncle Yu raised the flamethrower in his hand. "How about it? Do you want to burn them all?" Looking at the densely packed sleeping zombies, Zhang Yi recalled what Zhao Ke said. These zombies retain part of their biological nature. Strictly speaking, they are more like a swarm. In this case, they also need to rest and fall into a deep sleep. If they can fall into a deep sleep and never wake up, there's no point in waking them up. Zhang Yi thought very well, but the reality is always very cruel. Not long after they appeared here, a sleeping zombie suddenly opened its eyes. More and more zombies got up from the ground, their distorted bodies standing upright in a strange posture. When they saw a living person in front of them, they roared hoarsely and swarmed like crazy. Sure enough, it's not that easy. It's a bit troublesome now. Zhang Yi frowned, and instead of letting Uncle Yu use the flamethrower, he opened the gate of dimension to block the way. Although doing so can clean up these ordinary zombies, but it will definitely attract the attention of the Corpse King deep in the tunnel. If you want to kill the Corpse King again, the difficulty will undoubtedly become even greater. A large group of zombies rushed into the gate of the dimension one after another. When Liang Yu and the others saw this scene, their eyes were full of envy. In terms of defense alone, Zhang Yi's attribute points are almost full. Moreover, unless this ability is forcibly broken with excessive energy attacks, there is almost no other way to solve it. The tide of corpses was still pouring in, but suddenly, they all stopped, as if they had received some kind of order. So neat that it makes people feel as if someone suddenly pressed the pause button. Then, the group of zombies stopped outside the range of the gate of the dimension, and uttered disgusting and ugly screams at Zhang Yi and others in unison. "The Corpse King has found us," Zhang Yi said in a deep voice. "Since this is the case, there is no need to keep them. Burn them to death." Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu came over and pointed the flamethrower directly at the group of corpses. In the narrow and long tunnels, the flamethrower can exert its greatest power. 2 fire dragons more than 10 meters long covered dozens of zombies in front of them, and the flames suddenly blazed. After the zombies were burned, their bodies twisted immediately, and they made a crackling sound. The flames began to spread toward the rear, and within a short time, hundreds of zombies were covered by the fire. And the following zombies actually began to retreat slowly, leaving the area covered by the flames. Zhang Yi's eyes were full of caution. He said in a deep voice, "The Corpse King is not far from here. Chase after him." He put away the gate of the dimension and led a few people to chase into the depths. The road ahead has been completely blocked by dense crowds of corpses. They howled disgustingly, but they didn't dare to rush over to attack Zhang Yi and others, but retreated slowly. Due to the large number of zombies, the use of the flamethrower is particularly refreshing, just like making a barbecue. There is no way Zhang Yi's spatial ability is too perverted. It completely restrained the ability of the group of corpses, making it impossible for the zombies that use bites as an attack method to fully exert their advantages in group battles. This even gives people the illusion that these zombies are very weak. However, if they have seen the scene of them raging in the 4 major forces, no one will have such an idea again. Chapter 437 Shadow. Call. The flamethrower continued to emit a raging flame, illuminating the tunnel and burning those zombies who stood in the way to ashes. The group of corpses backed away in fear, facing Zhang Yi's perverted ability. They were completely powerless to fight back. But the expression on Zhang Yi's face did not show much joy. For him, there is no sense of accomplishment in eliminating these ordinary zombies. What he wants to kill is the Corpse King who secretly controls the corpse group. If the Corpse King is not dead, it can continuously create such zombies. But the movement here was obviously discovered by the Corpse King. It will be even more difficult to find its location. But it's all here. Zhang Yi has to try it anyway. Relying on the bug-level defensive ability of the Dimension Gate, Zhang Yi led several people to kill them all the way. Huahua and Liang Yu didn't even have a chance to make a move. However, Liang Yu looked behind him from time to time. She reminded Zhang Yi, those giant rats are still staring at us from behind. Rats in the damn sewer can hide in the crevices of all kinds of horns. There are probably more of them than zombies, and they cannot be killed at all. Zhang Yi said in a deep voice, don't worry about them for now. We have to find the location of the Corpse King as soon as possible and kill it to prevent future troubles forever. Liang Yu said, however, the advancing speed is still too slow. There are too many zombies in the passage. At a glance, the end of the tunnel is densely packed with surging heads. According to this speed, I don't know how to burn until the year of the monkey. But Zhang Yi said, it doesn't matter, let's just move on. This time the supplies and supernatural food are well prepared, and we can fight a tug-of-war with them. Liang Yu couldn't help but widen her beautiful eyes, and only then did she realize that Zhang Yi had long been prepared for a protracted war, and she didn't think about it at all at first. A protracted war in the tunnel? Liang Yu felt that Zhang Yi's approach was a bit risky. This is very inconsistent with Zhang Yi's usual style of doing things. Because the deeper you go, the harder it is to escape once you encounter a crisis later. But Zhang Yi's confident appearance made Liang Yu swallow the words in his throat. She cautiously held the tang knife and stood on Zhang Yi's left side. As a top martial arts expert, with her around, it is impossible for any enemy to surprise Zhang Yi from the dark. Another half an hour passed, and the group did not know how many zombies they had killed. Those zombies can only be slaughtered, and there is no way to fight back. And Zhang Yi's maintenance of the gate of the dimension is free of consumption, and he doesn't even need to take supernatural food to replenish his supernatural powers. Gradually, they found that the speed of the zombies' escape accelerated. As if realizing that there was no way to kill the invading enemy, the Corpse King began to gather his troops. The number of zombies has decreased, we can speed up our pace. Uncle Yu said to Zhang Yi. Fatty Zhu was a little excited. Maybe the Corpse King has already escaped along the subway. In that case, we only need to blow up the subway, and we will never have trouble again. Zhang Yi didn't think so. You have a great idea. The subway is not closed, and there are many subway entrances at intervals. If you want to completely block this place, unless you can blow up the entire subway tunnel. Do you think it is possible? Fatty Zhu looked a little embarrassed. It's really not realistic. The length of the secondary canal is more than 20 kilometers. I don't know how many explosives are needed to blow it up. It would be more practical to kill all the zombies here. The Yangsheng Base Survey Corps side. They are now in the subway tunnel of the Rangchang line. After experiencing the attack of the rat swarm, they lost some soldiers, and then moved forward with difficulty. Finally, they also found the group of corpses sleeping in the subway. Dong Hu's pupils shrank sharply. Retreat, retreat. The zombies smelled the smell of living people, opened their eyes one by one, and stood up from their deep sleep. It is densely packed, and it seems that there are zombies all over the subway from this side to the end. There may be tens of thousands of heads, or there may be 10,000 plus heads. It even gave people a feeling that all the dead people in Cheyenne City were dragged into the subway by the Corpse King and turned into such horrible zombies. Run, don't look back. Zhang Yi punched hard, and the raging flames ignited a dozen zombies in front of him. But behind them, a large number of zombies pushed the zombies in front away, and then rushed over frantically. Flamethrowers, grenades, and sprayers were all used. The survey knew that zombies were afraid of flames, so they were all equipped with these weapons when they came. Relying on the power of their weapons, they slowed down the attacking speed of the corpse group. I can only retreat first. This scale is more than 10 times more than the group of corpses that attacked us a few days ago. There is no need to fight. Zhang Yi and the other scalps were numb, and the number of zombies in front of them exceeded their imagination. Although they were mentally prepared in advance, they were still shocked when they actually met. Retreat quickly, our firearms can delay them for a while. Escape from the nearest subway exit, quick, quick, quick. Zhang Yi commanded loudly calmly. They are not here to die, but to gather intelligence. Therefore, when encountering a group of corpses that cannot be defeated, one must flee resolutely. But at this moment, a soldier using a flamethrower suddenly opened his eyes wide. He pointed to the huge shadow in front of him. What is this thing? Not only him, but all members of the survey corps saw the huge figure behind the firewall. It unexpectedly stepped over the raging flames, revealing a ferocious head 3 times the size of a normal human being. Raw, the soldiers at the front were torn apart in an instant, and even Zhang Yi and other strangers fell into deep despair when they saw it. This is bad. Zhang Yi and his party chased the corpses all the way, and the whole tunnel was covered with flames. They wore special combat uniforms, and walked through the flames and burning corpses without being affected in any way. The zombie group is also retreating rapidly, and the number is slowly decreasing. Zhang Yi and the others passed through the tunnel and suddenly came to an open place. Arrived at a new site. Only then did Zhang Yi understand why the zombies dissipated so quickly. This is a transfer station, and the zombies can quickly disperse towards other passages. It's a little troublesome now. With the transfer station, we can't figure out the exact location of the Corpse King. In this way, how can we determine where to go? Fatty Zhu looked around helplessly, like a headless chicken. But I have a feeling. Zhang Yi suddenly spoke. His eyes were like knives, sharply scanning the surroundings. That thing is not far from us. Just as he finished speaking, there was a sudden sound of heavy footsteps in the surrounding tunnel. Crack, click, boom, boom, boom. As if stepping on a corpse, he walked towards them heavily and slowly. The sound echoed in the dark tunnel, as if it came from all directions at the same time, making people wonder what was approaching, and how many were there. They're coming. Chapter 438 Bronze Armor Corps. Boom. 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 Deep in the subway, suddenly there was a dull sound from all around. The expressions of Zhang Yi and the others were a little serious. The sound seemed to be that some terrible monster had broken free from the cage. Be careful. The big one is coming. Zhang Yi reminded everyone like this. Fatty Zhu couldn't help but swallowed a mouthful of saliva, then picked up the flamethrower in his hand and looked around cautiously. Could it be that the wave of corpses that were defeated by them just now is making a comeback again? Nothing. Uncle, you said. No matter how many of those things come, we can kill them all. They have already seen the fighting power of the corpse group. Although it is much stronger than ordinary people, it is not enough to compare with top aliens like them. What's more, they are well prepared. Whether it is weapons and ammunition or supernatural food, it is enough to deal with large-scale corpses. But at this moment, Huahe howled suddenly. Meow, the voice is full of vigilance. It was as if he had encountered some terrible enemy. Huahe's combat power is very strong, especially when it is gigantic. Its combat power is still higher than that of Uncle Yu. When it is so vigilant, it means that the opponent it encounters is very dangerous. Zhang Yi looked solemnly. He whispered to himself, could it be that the Corpse King appeared? Corpse King. These two words brought great pressure to everyone. Although no one has seen it, a terrifying existence that can control thousands of zombies, or even tens of thousands of zombies, is definitely an extremely difficult and ruthless character. No one knows how powerful it really is. What kind of ability will it have? I don't even know if it is a human mutation or an extremely powerful zombie. At this time, at the end of the corridor ahead, the dull voice was getting closer. A black shadow slowly appeared. As soon as it appeared, it captured everyone's attention. In the darkness, a tall and thin creature that looked like a giant stick insect slowly walked towards everyone. After seeing its appearance clearly, Zhang Yi couldn't help but shrink his pupils. What he saw was not a human figure. Rather, it is a monster with a humanoid form, covered with hard bronze skin. In the dark shadows, it is at least 3 meters tall, with 2 long arms hanging down to the ground. There wasn't a trace of excess fat on his body. It was all disgusting and ugly dark red muscles, wrapped in hard bronze skin. A triangular head with a pair of huge ears. Gleaming fangs. The hideous eyes have a pair of brown vertical pupils. The scary thing is that it has 8 eyes on its body. In addition to the top of the head, there are 6 eyes on the arms and chest, which keep turning around. Although it has come to the end of the world, but everyone has never seen such a terrifying monster. For a while, they couldn't tell whether it was a corpse mutation or a special creature mutation. But judging from its muscles all over and its huge body shape, it can be seen that it must be very difficult to mess with. Uncle Yu couldn't help but said, "Could this be the Corpse King?" The others hadn't had time to answer his question. 3 more of the same monsters appeared from the other 3 directions. These 4 things are almost like quadruplets, except for a slight difference in size. They look almost identical. This thing was mass-produced. It is absolutely impossible to be born naturally. Zhang Yi's heart was beating wildly, and he immediately realized that there must be some huge conspiracy hidden in it. The birth of the zombie group is definitely not accidental. There must be human factors in it. And just behind these 4 monsters, the group of corpses reappeared. They gathered around the 4 bronze-armored corpses, staring at everyone quietly. Surrounded by zombies in all directions, there is no way to get through. They are so densely packed, it is impossible to count how many there are. That horrible sense of oppression pointed as the people who have experienced many battles also felt a little pressure. Fatty Zoo's face turned pale. These things don't look like ordinary zombies. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows upside down. He said coldly, "I understand. It turns out that these guys have been leading us here. Their purpose is to surround and wipe us out." Even if he had known for a long time that the Corpse King had wisdom. But Zhang Yi didn't expect that it would use tricks. Zhang Yi's evaluation of the Corpse King was a little higher in his heart. This kind of thing that can control a large number of corpses and has enough intelligence. If it is allowed to continue to grow, it will definitely be a nightmare for the entire Xianhe city. No, it will definitely be a nightmare for all mankind. "Zhang Yi, what should we do?" Uncle Liu asked. Zhang Yi sneered and said, "What else can we do now? We can only fight." Since it was in an open area, Zhang Yi's double doors could not play their fullest role at this time. But even without the ability of double doors, they are all good fighters themselves. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zoo picked up the flamethrowers and sprayed them at the surrounding zombies. Liang Yu drew out a long saber. At this time, she finally had a place to use it. But Zhang Yi said cautiously, "Liang Yu, who are you two stay by my side. Don't be too far away. We are too small now. We need to form a group." Liang Yu nodded. She knew that Zhang Yi's ability in close combat was not particularly strong, and he needed someone to protect him. Needless to say, Huahua has always been closely beside Zhang Yi. In the shelter, Huahua's closest person will always be Zhang Yi. At this time, the 4 huge monsters were already approaching step by step. They are protected by armor-like skin. Exudes a dark yellow light. Seeing them, Zhang Yi couldn't help thinking that there was such a saying in the movie he watched before. Among the zombies is a particularly powerful bronze-armored corpse. Its whole body is like steel and iron, and even a knife and gun can't break its defense. These special monsters in front of them may be mutated from corpses, or they may be the products obtained in some other way. But seeing that they can command other zombies, you know that they must be very powerful. Catch the thief first to capture the king. Zhang Yi said to everyone. Get rid of the 4 bronze armored corpses first, and deal with the other zombies later. Understand? Said the crowd. At this time, the group of corpses also started to move. The 4 bronze armored corpses let out a piercing roar, which made the entire underground passage tremble. The group of zombies behind them also followed them, raising their heads and roaring deafeningly. Roar. The group of corpses suddenly began to rush over, charging towards Zhang Yi and the others in a very decisive way. Even at this time, the group of giant rats that had been lurking in the dark for a long time also started their actions. These red-eyed giant rats wished to devour Zhang Yi and others, and the group of corpses rushed towards Zhang Yi and the others without taking their lives. They have no wisdom at all, and all actions are under the command of the Corpse King. At this time, the Corpse King intends to use their bodies to create trouble for Zhang Yi and others. I'm afraid the real trump card is those for huge bronze armored corpses. But at this time, Zhang Yi and the others had no other choice. They have been tricked into this open place by the Corpse King's tricks, which made it impossible for Zhang Yi's double doors to work perfectly. Now all the passages around them are blocked, and they can only fight with their backs here. Since the end of the world, Zhang Yi fought such a battle for the first time, putting himself in a desperate situation without any means of escape. But at this moment, there was no trace of fear in his eyes. It's not that he has encountered a more difficult situation than this, and every time he was able to save the day. Roar. The group of corpses rushed forward. The dense number and the giant rats running under the corpses made people feel uneasy. Both Uncle Liu and Fatty Zoo's faces were tense. They were very nervous, but the torches in their hands also sprayed out raging flames, burning towards the zombies and giant rats. But this time, the corpses no longer retreated, but ran towards them in a way of moths to the flame. Even if they die, they will die on the way to Zhang Yi's people. This is the order given to them by the Corpse King. Just as Zhang Yi thought, zombies would not feel fear, nor would they be afraid of death. The reason why they retreated when the situation was not right before was because the Corpse King behind them was directing. But now the Corpse King needs to use them to create chaos, break the formation of Zhang Yi and the others, and create opportunities for the bronze armored corpse. But everyone present is a top alien. They are not going to sit still. In the darkness, the samurai sword in Liang Yu's hand fluttered like moonlight. After absorbing the ability of the rabies, her strength has also been greatly improved. Senhun's sword light was glowing with a blue-colored sword energy, and the sword light spread out to be more than 3 meters long. The sword light interweaved into a network in the air, cutting the zombies into pieces, turning them into broken corpses. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zoo's flamethrowers also formed 2 powerful firepower nets, surrounding the zombies. Huahua and Zhang Yi did not make any major moves for the time being. Although Huahua is also very powerful in combat, but now it must protect Zhang Yi's safety. And Zhang Yi didn't rush to make a move, because his ability is mainly defensive, and it's not easy to play in such a situation. His means of attack, apart from divine power, are the rifles and explosives in his hands. So now he can only pick up the rifle in his hand and attack the zombies' legs violently. The rifle bullets under the blessing of supernatural power shattered the legs of the zombies into pieces, hindering their movements. Although there is no way to effectively kill them, it is also possible to make them incapacitated and unable to approach themselves. As for those mice as big as kittens and puppies, they were directly blasted into meat sauce. Whether it's zombies or giant rats, they can't pose a real threat to Zhang Yi and other powerful aliens. So not long after, the 4 powerful bronze armored corpses also joined the battle group. A bronze armored corpse picked up the 2 zombies at hand and threw them on the heads of Zhang Yi and others. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439 The Power of God. A bronze armored corpse opened its huge palm, picked up the zombies next to it like throwing a brick, and threw it at Zhang Yi and the others. The other bronze armored corpses followed suit and threw the zombies over Zhang Yi and the others by throwing them. This kind of attack from above made others feel a little tricky. Zhang Yi calmly opened the gate of dimension directly above his head. All the zombies fell into the different space one after another, without hitting anyone. Seeing this, the 4 bronze armored corpses froze for a moment. But soon, they ran over from the crowd of zombies with their legs open, and attacked Zhang Yi and the others. Fatty Zoo's face turned pale with fright. He has no way to use his abilities underground now, and can only rely on the flamethrower in his hand to maintain his combat effectiveness. In his direction, a bronze armored corpse more than 3 meters high rushed towards him. Fatty Zoo looked at the huge and tough body of the bronze armored corpse, and he felt that the bronze armored corpse could tear him to pieces with just one claw. Fatty Zoo roared angrily and turned on the flamethrower to the maximum firepower and sprayed wildly at the bronze armored corpse. However, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. The intense heat of the flamethrower, when sprayed on the bronze armored corpse, failed to ignite the bronze armored corpse. It didn't even leave mark on its bronze skin. The bronze armored corpse was covered with flames, but its movements were slightly slowed down. It opened its big hands impatiently, picked up a few zombies from the side, and threw them at Fatty Zoo. At this moment, the bronze armored corpse was already very close. Fatty Zoo was startled, and the movements of his hands also appeared to be sluggish. Seeing the bronze armored corpse approaching, Zhang Yi opened his arms, and finally used his own defensive secret technique, the double door. 2 extremely huge dimensional doors directly blocked the front and back of the passage, making it impossible for zombies from these 2 directions to attack them. But in this way, Zhang Yi's dimensional gatekeeper has no way to deal with other attacks. In this open place, in other directions around, there are still a large number of zombies and 2 huge bronze armored corpses. There seemed to be a pair of eyes staring at Zhang Yi and the others in the dark. The moment Zhang Yi opened the double doors, the zombies in the 2 directions quickly stopped their movements. Zombies in other directions quickened their pace, roaring and rushing towards Zhang Yi and the others. Damn it, there must be a corpse king behind this. It's a pity that we can't kill these zombies now. So how can we kill the corpse king? Uncle Yu said angrily. At this moment, Zhang Yi's calm voice rang in his ears. Don't worry, the more you have to observe calmly and carefully at this time. We can definitely find the corpse king. It's nearby. I can feel it. Although the current situation seems very dangerous, Zhang Yi understands that, as long as the corpse king can be killed, all problems will be solved. He blocked half of the attacking zombies with double doors, and Liang Yu and the others should be able to deal with the remaining half. Sure enough, at this time, the remaining 2 bronze armored corpses rushed to Zhang Yi and the others with a large number of zombies and giant rats. Uncle Yu and Fatty Zoo had to put down the flamethrowers in their hands. Using the flamethrowers at such a time would easily hurt themselves. Dry. Uncle Yu activated his skills, turned into a strong man over 2 meters tall, rushed over, and collided fiercely with the bronze armored corpse rushing towards him. Boom. The bronze armored corpse is bigger than Uncle Yu. After the 2 collided together, they were indistinguishable in terms of strength for a while, like 2 sumo wrestlers at the Yokozuna level wrestling. When I looked carefully, I found that the bronze armored corpse was even bigger in strength and size. But its skills are a bit clumsy, and it only has some simple fighting postures. In comparison, Uncle Yu, who has joined the army and practiced martial arts for many years, is far ahead of him in terms of combat skills. Relying on this advantage, Uncle Yu and the bronze armored corpse fought together. The other bronze armor corpse was blocked by Liang Yu holding a long knife. Liang Yu's knife exuded a blue light, and it flashed directly in the air. The bronze armored corpse didn't react, and a long knife mark suddenly appeared on its chest. PFFT. A deep crack appeared on the bronze colored armor, and then a stream of blue viscous liquid slowly leaked out. The bronze armored corpse took 2 steps back, and Liang Yu also took 5 steps back, and there was a hint of surprise in the eyes of both of them. Liang Yu didn't expect that her blow with all her strength would not cut the zombie into 2 pieces, but only tore through its surface skin. You know, with all her strength now, she can even split a chariot. And the copper armored corpse whose metal-like solid shell was cut through, and viscous body fluid flowed out also let out an angry roar. It looked at Liang Yu with some trepidation in its eyes, but it still rushed up without hesitation. 2 huge claws spread out, and the long claws were like 10 sharp long knives, exuding a chilly aura. This thing is really hard to deal with, Liang Yu said, while holding a knife, and rushed towards the bronze armored corpse again. But the opponent they need to face right now is not only the bronze armored corpse. There are also countless densely packed zombies and giant rats coming from all directions in the passage. Even if Liang Yu and Uncle Yu could fight back and forth with the bronze armored corpse, they might even gain the upper hand. But they couldn't deal with the huge number of zombies and giant rats at the same time. At this critical moment, Zhang Yi said to Huahe, go help Uncle Yu. Huahe received Zhang Yi's order, ran over decisively, and joined the battle group. With its help, the group of corpses in Uncle Yu's direction was quickly cleaned up. Huahe, who turned into a chariot, shot in this narrow and long passage, and the speed at which she killed the corpses could be described as terrifying. He had been told by Zhang Yi not to bite those zombies with his mouth to prevent poisoning. But as long as Huahe in the form of a chariot rolls in the tunnel, it can crush those rats and zombies to pieces. And then, the rest are the zombies on Liang Yu's side. Zhang Yi's eyes looked there, and a white light in his right eye flickered slowly, condensed, and finally became solidified. Liang Yu, get out of the way. Zhang Yi shouted at Liang Yu. Liang Yu seemed to have sensed something, and suddenly jumped back from the spot to make room for Zhang Yi. Divine power. Zhang Yi gave a low drink. The next moment, a distortion appeared in the space in front of him. Very abruptly, a large piece of space in front was like popcorn, bursting with a large piece of flesh and blood. Just a moment later, within a range of 300 meters in front of him, a cylindrical passage appeared. All the zombies within 300 meters were crushed into powder, including the bronze armored corpse with terrifying defense. His upper body was almost completely shattered, leaving only 2 legs standing on the ground. This is Zhang Yi's strongest attack skill now. Shenwei. Chapter 440 Jump. Seeing this terrifying scene, even Liang Yu couldn't help but gasped. This was the first time she had seen the power of Shenwei at such a close distance. Zhang Yi used it once on the battlefield before, but that time he was a stranger who was specially used to kill the opponent in seconds. And this time, including the bronze armored corpse, at least 400 to 500 zombies were instantly killed by this move. After the bronze armored corpse was killed, only some ordinary zombies and giant rats were left in Liang Yu's direction. Fatty Zhu was stunned for a moment, then laughed arrogantly. Ha ha ha, just you bastards, let's see if I don't burn you to death. He walked up directly with a flamethrower in his hand, and then triumphantly opened the fire for a constant temperature barbecue. In the other direction, Uncle Yu had the upper hand with the addition of Huahe. Although the huge bronze armored corpse was not directly dealt with, the giant rats and zombies behind him were basically cleaned up. After Huahe dealt with the ordinary zombies and giant rats, she also turned her head to help Uncle Yu deal with the bronze armored corpse. The other 2 passages were all blocked by Zhang Yi with the Gate of Dimension, so the group of corpses behind the door could only watch Zhang Yi kill their kind, but they couldn't come to help. The situation on the field was reversed, and Zhang Yi and his team won a complete victory. Even Liang Yu, who is now cold-tempered, couldn't help but say to Zhang Yi, your current strength is simply terrifying. I think looking at the entire Xianhe city at this time, I'm afraid that there will be no other person who can withstand your mighty blow without being prepared. Zhang Yi just smiled lightly. What's the matter? It's just a basic operation for me. But then he looked around cautiously. It's too early to relax. I think our real opponent is around the corner. I'm still waiting for him to appear. Although these bronze armored corpses seem to have a little intelligence and are stronger than ordinary zombies, they are absolutely impossible to be corpse kings. If the existence of the corpse king cannot be found today, then this operation will not be regarded as a complete victory. Because no matter how many zombies are killed, even this powerful bronze armored corpse, it can't stop the corpse king from shaping more subordinates. As if in response to Zhang Yi's voice, at this time, zombies slowly gathered in the 2 unblocked passages. From the deepest part of the tunnel, the familiar sound of heavy footsteps sounded. In 2 directions, 3 more bronze armored corpses appeared. They stood there, staring at Zhang Yi and the others with cold eyes. The long slender body that resembles a giant stick insect is twisted, disgusting, and frightening. That feeling made people despair and made everyone's hearts almost fall to the bottom. How could this be? How many monsters like this are there? Zhang Yi's divine power is a kind of supernatural power that consumes a lot of energy and has terrifying power. With his current power, he can use it 5 times in a row. but every time it is used, there must be a certain period of time for cooling in the middle. If the 6 bronze armored corpses continue to charge in the future, it will be difficult for them to resist with their current combat power. Fatty Zoo was so frightened that his legs almost gave way. It's over. What should we do now? Zombies don't give them time to think. The next moment, 6 bronze armored corpses rushed over with a lot of zombies and giant rats. Are we going to be buried here? Fatty Zoo screamed in fright, and Zhang Yi's eyes became more and more dignified. He sighed softly. It seems that this time the zombie crisis is more serious than we imagined, and the existence behind it is even more terrifying. Even for me, it's hard to end easily, seeing that everyone is about to be surrounded by a more terrifying wave of corpses. At this moment, Zhang Yi shouted to the uncle and Huahe, "Come back soon." The bronze armored corpse over there had been beaten to pieces by Huahe and Uncle Yu. After this kind of thing is killed, its limbs no longer squirm, which is different from other zombies. Zhang Yi noticed this. It seems that the copper armor corpse is a real creature, not a host parasitized by a virus. Hearing Zhang Yi's call, one person and one cat hurried back to Zhang Yi's side. At this time Zhang Yi put away his double doors. At this time, the passage was in all directions, and the zombies in all directions were no longer restricted, roaring and rushing towards Zhang Yi and others. But Zhang Yi reopened a door in front of him unhurriedly, and then said to everyone, "Follow me." With that said, Zhang Yi walked into the door first. The others were stunned for a moment, but soon followed Zhang Yi into the gate of the dimension. When the group of zombies rushed here, they were all in vain. They don't understand why the enemy who was about to bite to death just now disappeared out of thin air. In the depths of the tunnel, their unwilling and infiltrating roars echoed. In the next moment, it was tens of meters above the tunnel. Zhang Yi and others just disappeared from the tunnel point, then it appeared in the snow above the subway tunnel. "Hey, I'm really scared to death." Zhang Yi patted his chest and said with lingering fear. He took off his helmet and took a breath of icy air. In the scene he experienced just now, although he knew in his heart that it would not be too dangerous, it was like watching a 3D horror movie, and he still felt scared in his heart. In the scene just now, if the person who came was not him but someone else, it would definitely end in death. Then Uncle Yu and Liang Yu also walked out from the dimensional gate. When they saw the scene outside, they were stunned for a moment, and then they figured out what? "Zhang Yi, is this your new ability?" Zhang Yi said calmly, "It's not really a new ability, it's just that I have some new understanding of the application of the dimension gate." In the past, Zhang Yi's use of the gate of the dimension was relatively common, and he could only open one door. But now that his ability is getting stronger and stronger, he can finally open the second door. Since the 2 doors are connected to a space, Zhang thought of a new usage. It is to turn the 2 doors into a passage through space. So far he has been able to complete the traversal of the space within 300 meters. That's why, this time, he had the courage to venture into the unfathomable subway tunnel. Fatty Zoo was so frightened that he almost peed, but now he fell to the ground and gasped heavily. He said, "Fortunately, boss, you should have said earlier, if you have this ability. Do you know that I was almost scared to death just now?" Zhang Yi said with a humorous smile, "I just want to leave a surprise for you." Zhang Yi has always been unwilling to expose his abilities, even his teammates. This was not to doubt them, but out of prudence, he avoided doing anything that might reveal his details. This is the way to survive. Immediately, the expression on his face became serious. But at the beginning, I didn't expect the opportunity to really use this ability. The outbreak of the zombie crisis this time is more complicated and terrifying than we imagined. So far, I don't know what it will look like in the end. Chapter 441 The Way to Solve the Massive Corpses. As soon as these words were uttered, everyone at the scene fell silent. If Zhang Yi hadn't mastered the new ability, just like the scene just now, even if they had 3 times, 5 times or even 10 times more people, it is possible to be buried there. Because judging from the previous scenes, the number of corpses has reached an unimaginable level. Tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, who knows? So what do we do next? Uncle Yu's voice was a little confused. If these zombies cannot be dealt with once and for all, then they will surely face endless attacks from corpses. And they also saw that there were a lot of zombies in the subway tunnel. There is even the kind of bronze armored corpse that they will be afraid of after seeing them. If all these zombies rush out and attack their shelter, how long can they hold off? Not to mention that these zombies have a strong learning ability. They will become stronger again and again, even if they can block the first time. What about the latter? And they also have an opponent they fear the most. That is the Corpse King, that they have never been in contact with secretly. What kind of thing is that? What capabilities does it have? No one knows. The more unknown something is, the more terrifying it is. Zhang Yi also fell into silence. He looked up at the distant sky. Although the world on the ground is not very bright, it is already brighter than the underground. There are white snowflakes everywhere. Although it is cold, it does not give people that desperate sense of danger. Zhang Yi took out a pack of cigarettes from a space to light, lit one, and stuffed it into his mouth. He took a deep breath. The people next to him didn't bother him, and everyone knew that he was also feeling bad. After thinking for a long time, Zhang Yi came back to his senses, and then handed Uncle Yu one. Fatty Zhu doesn't smoke, neither does Liang Yu. So there were only two gentlemen there, and each of them smoked one by one. But gradually, Fatty Zhu's expression became a little weird. In fact, when those corpses were about to approach him, he really peed a little, so now his underwear is wet. Because it was in front of everyone, and there was a woman named Liang Yu present, he was too embarrassed to speak out. At this moment, he had no choice but to clamp his legs and pretend nothing happened. After a long time, Zhang Yi said slowly, in any case, we must solve this problem, and we must solve it as soon as possible. There is no longer room for these zombies to grow. They terrified me. Then what can you do? Liang Yu asked with a puzzled expression. She was very pessimistic in her heart. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes slowly, and his gaze was looking towards the southeast, where there used to be a vast ocean. But now the offshore area should have been frozen. So it should be more difficult to see the sea view again, unless you go further. If our goal is to get rid of these zombies, it's actually not as difficult as imagined. Amidst the puzzled eyes of the crowd, Zhang Yi suddenly raised his head with a smile. Now I'm more and more aware of my ability, which is actually quite useful. It's not particularly useful except when fighting, but it's really useful in other ways. Zhang Yi didn't hold back. He gave his thoughts without waiting for everyone to ask. I now have a plan. The subway line in our area is not complicated, and there is only one secondary line passing by, and these zombies generally sleep in the tunnels. It can be seen that, although the virus is very cold resistant, they will not stay in such a low temperature outside. So when the zombies are dormant, it can be concluded that they are all in the tunnel. We don't have enough explosives to blow up the entire subway line. But there is one thing, certainly more useful than explosives at a time like this. Several people looked at Zhang Yi and hurriedly asked, what is that? Zhang Yi took a deep breath and looked towards the southeast. That's seawater. The freshwater rivers have all been frozen at this time, and it is impossible to obtain a large enough water source. However, seawater contains high salinity, and the seawater in the deep sea area has not been completely frozen at this time. What Zhang Yi has to do is to go to the deep sea area and use his spatial ability to draw a large amount of seawater. Then the entire subway tunnel is fully irrigated. Hearing what Zhang Yi said, how many people's eyes lit up immediately? A rare smile appeared on Liang Yu's face. She clapped her hands and applauded. Wonderful, this trick is really wonderful. The subway line is a one-way line. As long as we seal off the subway station at the end, it will be like a blocked alley, and your space can hold enough seawater to completely submerge this tunnel. The underground tunnel is so deep, the rats and zombies in it should all be submerged by water. At least most of them can be eliminated. If the Corpse King was really alive, he would probably be drowned half dead. Even in the worst case, they have no way to continue to survive in the tunnel. Liang Yu's explanation made Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu excited. This seems to have grasped a life-saving straw in a desperate situation, so that they can solve the crisis they are facing now. Fatty Zhu got up from the ground and said happily, it has to be the boss. His ability is too buggy, and it just happens to be the best weapon against zombies at this time. Uncle Liu said with a smile, I think the most powerful thing is Zhang Yi's mind. Although each of us has supernatural powers, Zhang Yi is the one who makes the most of them. Meow. Hua yelled from the side, expressing her agreement. Zhang Yi just smiled lightly. This plan is just something I came up with, but the actual implementation still needs a lot of preparation. And there is a very critical question. I need to go back and ask the professional technicians at home. Zhang Yi took out the snowmobile from the different space. Let's go back first. The sooner this plan is implemented, the better. We must speed up. We can't give those zombies a chance to grow. Chapter 442 Feasibility Study. Yangsheng Base. Zhao Hanglian sat at his desk with his hands crossed under his chin. At this time, her face was extremely ugly. Zhu Qingting on the side also remained silent, with a gloomy expression on his face. Because just now, the search team they sent out to investigate the corpses had all been killed. There was a communication device in front of Liang Yu, and the video Deng Hu sent before his death came from it. Through the communication equipment, Liang Yu saw the terrifying number of corpses deep in the subway, and rats as big as puppies. And what made her fear the most was the huge and weird bronze armored corpse that was as big as a stick insect. Their fighting power is no less than that of aliens. I didn't expect such a monster to exist underground. If they all rush out, even if our current base is fully armed, there is no way to stop them. Zhu Qingting said. Do you want to consider moving to the ground? This suggestion also means that they must give up everything above the surface, including the huge oil refinery. Zhao Hanglian frowned. It's absolutely impossible. If we lose the refinery, we will lose the foundation of our existence. In any case, no matter how much the price is paid, the refinery must be kept. Zhu Qingting said, but if they really come to kill them all, can we still stop them? A ruthless look flashed in Zhao Hanglian's eyes. Then dump the oil in storage and dump it around the refinery. As long as those zombies come over, we will light the oil and burn them all. The cost of doing so is undoubtedly huge, but it is also tantamount to abandoning the army to protect the commander. As long as the refinery can be kept, the remaining crude oil can keep them alive for a long time. This practice of a strong man cutting off his wrists made Zhu Qingting fall into silence. But right now they have no better means of defense. After all, they still can't make up their minds to completely abandon all the buildings above the surface and then hide in the underground shelter. Zhu Qingting said, if that's the case, then we might as well let the family members of the soldiers go underground first, so that even if we have any problems, there will be someone below to respond. Zhao Hanglian leaned back on the chair and let out a long breath. Just do what you say. Zhang Yi and others returned to the shelter. When Zhao Ke and the others came to greet him, they found that there was not much excitement on their faces. The women in the family suddenly realized that this time Zhang Yi's actions were not particularly smooth. What's going on? Are you in trouble? Zhao Ke asked gently. Fatty Zhu and Uncle Yu looked at each other with wry smiles on their faces. Only Zhang Yi still smiled gently. It is true that I have encountered a little trouble, but it will not become a big problem. It is the business of these fighters to fight abroad. Zhang Yi doesn't want to put pressure on the women at home. Be it Zhao Ke or Yang Mi, they are all support staff, and they have already done everything they should do. The battle is left to Zhang Yi and the others to solve. At least when he returned home, Zhang Yi didn't want to bring too many negative emotions. Family is their important haven today. After everyone returned to the house, they changed into their daily clothes. Yang Mi brought a hot drink. Several people finished their drinks to warm up their bodies. Then Zhang Yi said to Yang Mi, go and call Xingxin and Karen over. I have something to ask them. Okay, wait a moment. Yang Mi ran to the back and called the two people who were in the console and the studio over. Yang Xingxin pushed a wheelchair to the scene and immediately noticed the weirdness of the scene. Although the expression on Zhang Yi's face was gentle, there was a hint of deepness in the depths of his eyes. Obviously something bad happened. As for the expressions on the faces of Uncle Judas and Fatty Zhu, it was clearly written that their actions today were not going well. Liang Yu's face still had that icy expression. Nothing could be seen. Yang Xingxin came to Zhang Yi with a smile. Brother, how is the operation going this time? Although she knew something might go wrong with this operation, Yang Xingxin still had to ask about the situation so that she could contribute. Zhang Yi raised his head, smiled and waved to Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen. Come here, now I have a very important question to ask you. Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen looked at each other with surprise in their eyes. When Zhang Yi was able to come to ask them for advice, it was actually relatively rare. The two came to Zhang Yi. Yang Xingxin smiled and said, "Brother, if you have any questions, just ask." Zhang Yi said, "That's the thing. I have an idea that I need you to help me implement." He spread his hands and said with a serious expression, "I need a way to freeze seawater quickly, and it's a very large amount of seawater. Do you have any good methods?" What Zhang Yi has to do is not just pouring seawater into the subway. Because the subway is just flooded with seawater, it is very likely that a large number of zombies and giant rats will not die. Instead, he ran out of the subway. At that time, a large number of giant rats and zombies running out may become a bigger problem. So the best way is to collect the seawater into the different space first. Then find a way to make the seawater freeze quickly. After he poured the seawater into the subway, he let the seawater freeze. In this case, the entire subway passage will become a huge ice lump. Freeze all the zombies and mice inside. Frozen at a depth of several 10 meters underground. I'm afraid that it is impossible for ordinary zombies to escape except for those bronze armored corpses and corpse kings. Zhang Yi's design is basically like this. It's just that the idea is very good. Whether it can be realized or not depends on what the technology says. Chemical materials are Lu Karen's forte. Lu Karen thought for a while and asked, "Of course there are methods. You only need to prepare some chemical materials to freeze the seawater quickly, but how much seawater do you need to freeze?" Zhang Yi couldn't help laughing. Very large portions. Let's put it this way, I need to freeze the entire subway line, more than 20 kilometers of road. Hearing these words, the faces of the women in the family all showed shocking expressions. If that's the case, the amount of seawater needed can be described as terrifying. But Uncle Liu, Fatty Zhu, and Liang Yu showed no surprise on their faces. They looked at Lu Karen and Yang Xingxin expectantly, hoping to get a positive answer from them. Lu Karen held his chin and thought for a while. She replied, "Actually, this kind of thing is not difficult to do. If you have enough time to prepare, it will be easier." Chapter 443 The Long Lost Ocean. After getting a positive answer from Lu Karen, Zhang Yi's eyes lit up immediately. As long as it can be done, that's great. In terms of time, we are actually not that anxious. Although he saw the horror of the corpses, Zhang Yi didn't want to wipe out all the corpses immediately. As long as it can be done before the corpses fully grow up and pose a threat to the shelter, it is enough. Lu Karen laughed and said, "It's easy to handle this way. In fact, there is a relatively simple way to make seawater freeze quickly, and that is to precipitate seawater and precipitate the salt in it. This one requires some very simple chemistry. However, in order to speed up the condensation of seawater, I will prepare a large amount of coagulant specially for you. Anyway, there are still a lot of unused materials we found from the chemical factory before. It just so happens that they can be used this time." To Lu Karen, this was nothing more than an insignificant matter. After all, making water condense cannot even be analyzed from a chemical point of view, but is just a very common physical phenomenon. Zhang Yi patted his thigh happily. "Well, if this is the case, you should prepare right now. Let's not wait any longer. We will act this afternoon and go get seawater together. Don't be too late. Time waits for no one." The sooner these problems are resolved, the more secure Zhang Yi's heart will be. Zhao Ken said, "You have just come back. Why don't you take a good rest? I think you are also quite tired." Zhang Yi shook his head. "It's okay. As long as we eat some supernatural food made by Yang Mi, we can restore our physical strength and supernatural powers. Time waits for no one. This matter has not been dealt with here, and I feel like I can't eat well." Zhang Yi is such a character. He can't let go of anything in his heart, and there is always a deep sense of urgency buried in his heart. It is this kind of character that makes him like to be well prepared, no matter what he does. Only by being too thorough can one gain a complete sense of security. Zhao Ken understood Zhang Yi's character, so he didn't persuade him anymore. She had no choice but to say, "Then you go and come back quickly." So Zhang Yi stood up, looked at everyone who hadn't had enough rest, and said, "Come on, let's go to the beach." Going to the beach shouldn't be too dangerous. Therefore, no one raised any objections. so everyone who hadn't settled their buttocks stood up from the sofa and rearmed. After that, everyone drove the snowmobile non-stop towards the beach of the East China Sea. The beaches of the East China Sea used to be a famous tourist attraction, but now the world has fallen into a frozen age. That place should have been shrouded in ice. Zhang Yi hasn't passed by for a long time, but he heard that the Zhao base can sail in the deep sea, fish, and even go to other places. He was more or less curious in his heart, and even looked forward to going to the beach to have a look. When leaving, Fatty Zhu still had some lingering fears and asked, "We won't meet people from Zhao base, right? We fought so fiercely with them at the beginning. If they find out, maybe we will fight hard again." Zhang Yi laughed and said, "I'm afraid Zhao base is very busy now. Dealing with those zombies is enough for them to be annoying. Where is there still time to come and deal with me? If they find out about our past, they should be the ones who are afraid." Fatty Zhu nodded, feeling that what Zhang Yi said made sense. When fighting for territory, there is naked hatred between people. But now there are creatures other than humans that threaten the safety of all of them. At this time, everyone's contradictions will gradually ease. Maybe there will be opportunities to cooperate in the future. Zhang Yi filled up the gas on the snowmobile, started the car, and drove towards the edge of the East China Sea that he had not seen for a long time. Everyone was inexplicably excited because they hadn't seen the sea for a long time. What will the vast ocean look like now? In the depths of the sea, will some magical creatures mutate and become terrifying monsters? Like a monster like Godzilla? The mysterious and vast ocean makes people feel awe from the heart. It's just that Zhang Yi and others are only going to the offshore sea on the edge of the ice, so there shouldn't be any terrible monsters. Judging from the current situation, even if there are mutated monsters in the ocean, they will only appear in the deep sea, because they cannot get enough food in the offshore. A group of people drove towards the edge of the East China Sea. After driving for a long time, I finally came to the edge of the coast. The car stopped at the place where the beach used to be, and everyone got out of the car, looking at the endless white ice in front of them, lost in thought. The vast and great scene shocked them deeply. If it weren't for being in the last days, they even wanted to take a few photos here and praise the beauty of nature. By the way, the vast sea, looking around, all the sea surface is sealed by ice. The edge of the sea is like a natural mirror, so smooth and smooth. It's so beautiful. Is this the uncanny workmanship of nature? Liang Yu couldn't help admiring. Uncle Yu couldn't help but said, compared with here, the ice surface of Mo in winter is simply nothing. Zhang Yi said to everyone, "Now we don't have time to feel emotional. We have to drive there to see where we can get water." Everyone returned to the car and then drove towards the edge of the coastline. On the vast sea, the car driven by a few people on the ice looks like a tiny ant. When people face the great nature, they always have to maintain a kind of awe. It makes people realize how small they are. The snowmobile went all the way, and I don't know how long it has been driving. A large area of the offshore area is covered by ice. Maybe they have to rush to a place close to the deep sea to be able to see the sea surface that is not completely frozen. There is a sense of loneliness to such a drive. Although Zhang Yi is not a poet, but at this time, he wants to tell some beautiful poems. But there is nothing I can do. I only hate that I have no culture in this life, and I can say it all over the world. The car drove for more than 2 hours. Being on the ice meant they had driven more than 200 kilometers. Only this kind of high-end snowmobile has such ability. Otherwise, if it was a broken car modified by the Yangsheng base, it might have broken down on the road long ago. Finally, at the end of the sea and sky, they saw a spray of waves. "Boss, water. I see water." Fatty Zhu excitedly pointed forward and shouted. At this time, they were already far away from Shanghai City. The longer they drove, the more panic they felt. Seeing the water at this moment, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. "Come over, we'll leave after collecting the water," Zhang Yi said to everyone. In such a vast place, the feeling of awe in his heart grew deeper and deeper. At the same time, I was also a little afraid that something would happen suddenly in such an environment. Even though he is the #1 alien in Shanghai City now, if something really happens in the sea, it may be difficult to escape. How many people drove the car near the ice? Finally ahead, they saw the deep blue sea. The waves sway leisurely on the edge of the seawater and the ice surface, and you can still see the condensing spray in the spreading ice layer. Even at an ultra low temperature of tens of degrees below zero, it is still impossible to freeze the deep sea, because the salt content of seawater is too high. Constantly moving ocean currents and volcanic activity beneath the ocean keep the water from reaching the freezing point at which seawater condenses. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, and he walked carefully to a place close to the water surface. Then he opened his own different space. He dedicated a large part of his own space point used to accommodate the seawater. Double doors. Two huge dimensional gates appeared above the seawater and then began to pump a large amount of seawater into the different space like a pump. After all, the amount of seawater they need is extremely large. At least tens of millions of cubic meters is enough. Zhang Yi was at the edge of the ocean, constantly pumping seawater. This process was a bit dull and boring. Zhang Yi simply sat on the edge of the sea, watching the sea with several other people. They haven't seen this kind of living water for a long time, so they feel that there will be some novelty. An uncle rubbed his hands. He said with some regret, "I knew I would come here with a fishing rod. What a wonderful thing it is to fish in this place." Uncle is not alone in feeling this way. Even Zhang Yi wants to go fishing here and feel the scenery of nature. Still the same sentence. Everything that was considered normal at the beginning has become extraordinarily precious now. Zhang Yi said with a smile, "I have an idea. When you say it this way, go back and build a fish pond at home, and then we will put some sea fish in it. What do you think?" Just when the seawater was collected, some marine fish were actually taken in, and these fish can be kept and stocked in the fish pond. It's not for eating, they are mainly for fishing and fun. Uncle Liu and Fatty Zhu applauded in unison. No man can resist the joy of being a fisherman. Facts have proved that even at extremely low temperatures, fish in the deep sea still live very well. After all, the low temperature can only cover the surface of the ocean, and the depths of the sea will not be greatly affected. In this way, Zhang Yi collected here for a long time, and finally collected almost enough amount. For the sake of safety, the part of the area he left in the different space happened to be a part of the space that was 25 kilometers long and 10 meters wide and meters high. It was not until this part of the different space was filled that Zhang Yi stopped the process of collecting. Chapter 444. After the seawater was almost collected, Zhang Yi stopped. He said to several people, "Let's go. The preliminary preparations are almost done. After we go back, we will find a way to let the seawater settle so that its salt content will be lower. Oh, let's go." Fatty Zhu and Uncle Yu reluctantly stood up. Even Liang Yu had a look of reluctance in his eyes at this moment. They haven't seen this kind of natural scenery for a long time. If one day the temperature becomes colder and the climate becomes harsher, perhaps only the ocean will become the only place on this planet where life exists. Fatty Zhu even said, "Boss, why don't we consider building a sea view house here in the future?" Zhang Yi thought about it and felt that this proposal was really good. However, if this idea is to be realized, at least he will have to wait until he can guarantee his own safety. Maybe the Zhao base will be wiped out by the corpses at that time. When we occupy their base and their boat, we will be able to travel far away. Zhang Yi said with a smile. The hearty laughter spread far and wide on the ice field. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this plan, and a raging flame burned in their pupils. Going out to sea, you can drift in the huge ocean. It's more comfortable than being stuck in a shelter all day. For them now, this temptation is huge. Seeing their appearance, Zhang Yi smiled and spread his hands. Let's think about how to solve the current problem first. However, the ocean-going ships at Zhao base are indeed something I'm very greedy for. Zhang Yi's idea has a deep meaning, and it is for a longer-term development. Because in the future, if the temperature warms up and the glaciers melt, the coastal cities will definitely be submerged. To prepare for the future, he must need a big ship that can withstand wind and waves. Several people left the beach talking and laughing, and then left in a car. None of them noticed that at the place where they stopped just now, a huge black shadow slowly swam past under the ice. It was so huge that no one noticed it. In the vast ocean, no one knows how many terrifying existences there are. And in this era of global mutation, it is even more unimaginable how terrifying those monsters will become. Insignificant human beings should always maintain enough awe of nature. When Zhang Yi and the others returned to the shelter, it was already very late. But Zhang Yi didn't delay at all. He didn't even have time to eat dinner, so he went directly to Lu Karen. I've collected the seawater, and the next step is to let it settle. Are your materials ready? Lu Karen nodded. That's not a very special material, so it's easy to prepare. As she spoke, she showed Zhang Yi hundreds of plastic buckets in a corner of her studio. These are precipitants. You put them in the seawater, which can make the seawater precipitate salt quickly. If you want to freeze seawater quickly, well, the most critical step is to deal with a lot of salt in it first. Only when the salt content is relatively low, they can freeze relatively quickly at low temperatures. Then when you act, I will also give you some coagulant, which can make the seawater freeze faster. Zhang Yi nodded. So, it will probably take a few days for the seawater to settle? Lu Karen thought for a while and said, it will take at least 2 days. Zhang Yi said, well, we can still afford to wait in just 2 days. In the next 2 days, the zombie attack became more and more manic. It seems that Zhang Yi's proactive attack made the Corpse King angry. It's just that the bronze armored corpse didn't appear this time. There are still a large number of zombie groups appearing around Zhang Yi's shelter. From this, Zhang Yi judged that the number of such bronze armored corpses was relatively rare. The Corpse King also understands that these bronze armored corpses cannot be used as consumables like ordinary zombies. But for Zhang Yi and the others, it wasn't the corpses that really caused trouble. It was a huge swarm of rats that suddenly appeared from the depths of the subway. This morning, Zhang Yi was awakened from his sleep. ZioAI, the intelligence system of the shelter, issued an urgent reminder to Zhang Yi. Alert. Alert. The shelter is under attack. The shelter is under attack. The current damage level is 0.00001%. The attack is continuing. Please solve the damage problem in time. What? The attack continues. Could it be that those zombies are coming again? Zhang Yi didn't pay too much attention to those zombies. Because with the attack methods of those zombies, it is impossible to cause any harm to the shelter. He got up from the bed and walked quickly to the window. At this moment, he saw dense claws pawing on the top of the shelter. The floor-to-ceiling windows in front of me have been completely covered. Zhang Yi looked carefully and realized what these things were. It turned out to be those giant rats in the depths of the subway. They had never appeared before, but this time it seemed that they had killed too many of their kind by Zhang Yi. So they became angry and joined the attack of the zombie wave. Crack, 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 crack. Zhang Yi's ears were full of this chirping sound, which made his ears ache. The giant rats have no specialties in other aspects, but their teeth are so sharp that they can even bite through the combat uniforms of the base. Therefore, when the shelter is surrounded by giant rats, they also have a certain impact on the defense of the shelter. Zhang Yi's scalp was a little numb. According to the number of these giant rats, although their attacks would not break through the shelter in a short time, but if the water drips through the stone for many years, they will definitely gnaw a big hole in the shelter. Even if it can't be broken, the outer wall will be riddled with holes. Damn it, these mice even ran over. Now through the camera outside, he has seen an unknown number of rats clogging the shelter. Now it is very difficult for him to open the door and go out. Zhang Yi was not the only one suffering from headaches. There was a sudden knock on his door. Zhao Ke and the other women were so frightened by the giant rat that they screamed. There are not many women who are not scared to death by seeing so many big rats. At this moment, Huahe, who had just woken up, stretched her waist and then banged into a huge form. It squinted and stared at the countless giant rats outside the house. Suddenly, it opened its mouth and let out a deafening roar. Roar. Huahe's roar is quite different from the past. It is no longer the cute cry of a cat. And like a king of beasts, the roar pierced through the glass, directly causing the mice outside to rustle down like dumplings. Soon, all the mice lying on a large wall were shaken off, and large pieces fell to the ground. Zhang Yi looked at Huahe with some relief. Your ability to clean up miscellaneous soldiers is really useful. A flash of pride flashed in Huahe's eyes, and she proudly raised her tail. Although these mice are more troublesome, they are not impossible to solve. Zhang Yi immediately called Fatty Zhu, Uncle Liu, and Liang Yu, and took them out to deal with the mice. Chapter 445 Perfusion. The scale of the corpses and rats that came this time was obviously several times larger than before. The Corpse King was really angry. This should be a warning to Zhang Yi and the others, and it was also a deeper temptation. As long as there are enough corpses, they will not be wiped out by Zhang Yi and the others at once. In this way, there will always be zombies who can go back alive and convey Zhang Yi's fighting style to the Corpse King. If things go on like this, the Corpse King will become more and more intelligent, and his zombies will become more and more powerful. Zhang Yi didn't care too much at this time. Let them learn, if they wanted to, and he'd be on his own before long anyway. 4 people plus a cat began to clean up the corpses and rats on a large scale. In Zhang Yi's own territory, and only facing ordinary zombies and giant rats, Zhang Yi and the others still have no pressure. After half an hour the rat population was almost wiped out, and more than half of the corpses were killed, and the rest scattered and fled, fleeing from all directions back to the direction of Sigwa subway station. We have to wait 2 more days, Zhang Yi said coldly. When facing the corpse group this time, he could clearly feel that the corpse group was becoming more and more adapted to their fighting skills. In addition to not gathering on a large scale and preventing them from burning too many zombies with a flamethrower, they will also intentionally avoid Zhang Yi's double doors. And according to each person's ability, they began to use different means to attack. For example, when facing Zhang Yi and Fatty Zhu, a large number of zombies were killed. Because neither Zhang Yi nor Fatty Zhu are capable users who are good at melee combat. When facing Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Huata, they drove a large number of giant rats to attack from the ground. In this way, it is difficult for the 2 of them to fully exert their martial arts and strength. This is the performance of intelligent creatures. Zhang Yi felt a little gloomy in his heart. Such a huge group of corpses. A Corpse King like this who is smart and has the ability to evolve. In the entire Xianhei city, he is not the only one with it. It is not known how many such existences exist in various places. How exactly are they born? And how many Corpse Kings are there? These are all unknowns. But right now, Zhang Yi can only solve his own problems first. As for the crisis faced by other forces, let them face it themselves. For Zhang Yi, the ideal situation is that when the other base forces are eliminated, those zombie groups are also eliminated by them. Zhang Yi is most happy to see such a situation, where both sides suffer. After cleaning up the corpses and rats, Zhang Yi turned around and came to the edge of the shelter. He reached out and touched the hard black metal walls of the shelter. I could actually feel scratches of different shades appearing on it. The deepest part actually appeared to reach a depth of 0.1 millimeters. Zhang Yi couldn't help but said, if these giant rats are allowed to attack the shelter, I'm afraid it will last up to 2 years, and the shelter will be breached by them. Fortunately, Zhang Yi didn't hesitate at the beginning. After realizing that something was wrong with the corpses, he decisively led everyone to the depths of the subway. Although that temptation was a bit dangerous, after seeing the power of the corpses and rats in the depths of the subway, they can quickly find a way to solve the problem. It won't be eaten away step by the opponent's method of boiling the frog in warm water. Let's go back and prepare. All this should come to an end, Zhang Yi said to everyone. The situation on Zhang Yi's side is considered good. There were no casualties, and no substantial damage to the shelter. But the casualties of other forces were more severe. At first, no one took the sudden appearance of zombies seriously, but later everyone gradually discovered that their actions became more and more regular, and they even became disciplined like the army. They launched very vicious assaults on various weak parts. In the face of the powerful defense links of various forces, these zombies will tactfully dodge. The losses of several major forces were very heavy. The Zhao base even had to abandon their base in the port and hid in the giant ship at sea in order to avoid the attack of the corpse group. For them, the port is just a temporary landing site. Although abandoning the port will lose the supplies and the large number of containers above, but by keeping the giant ship, they can have long-term development. However, Yangsheng Base and Qingpu Base do not have such innate advantages. Whether it is the steel mills or oil refineries above the surface, they are the foundation for their survival, so they can only strengthen their defenses to fight against zombies. But the most tragic one is still the snow worship cult. They don't even have a strong enough line of defense to withstand the attack of zombies. You can only choose to gather the crowd and put most of the believers in the building. Then arrange some basic defense lines on the periphery to counterattack. Stones, cars, horses made of wood and barbed wire. The biggest effect of these things may not be to deal with zombies, but to give people a little more comfort in their hearts. Because when facing the huge tide of corpses, their effect is actually very limited. Every day they will have a large number of followers lost their lives. Fortunately, their population base is relatively large. Although many died, the remaining believers are enough to maintain a certain scale. However, it is not a blessing for Sei Weng to lose his horse. For the snow worship cult, the invasion of giant rats and zombie groups also brought a huge benefit. In the past they have been relatively deficient in food. But these rats, which are as huge as cats and puppies, can eat a person for several days after being killed. It's such a time, and they don't care about the possibility that the giant rat may carry the virus. When it's precarious, they can eat as much as they can. The words were divided into two ends, and 2 days passed quickly. In Zhang Yi's different space, the huge amount of seawater has basically completed the precipitation. A large amount of white salt was precipitated. Zhang Yi extracted the salt full of impurities. At this time, the salt content in the seawater is relatively low. Although there is still a certain distance from fresh water, it is relatively easy to be frozen. Now Zhang Yi can implement his plan. He found Lu Karen, who had prepared dozens of buckets of coagulant for him. In addition to these, there are also a large number of explosives. Zhang Yi took the combat team and left the shelter on a snowmobile. They did not go directly to Sigwa Station, but first followed the direction of the subway to the terminal station Songjiang. If you want to completely freeze these zombies and rats to death in the subway, you must first block all their escape routes. So the first step they have to do is to completely blow up Songjiang Station. If you just blow up a subway station, the amount of explosives required is not too large. Several people placed the explosives, ran to the side far away, and detonated. Only a boom was heard. The ground collapsed rapidly. The ice, snow, and mud above the ground buried the subway station deeply. Fatty Zhu asked, "Boss, if you do this, what if the Corpse King finds out that there is danger in advance and runs away?" Zhang Yi shook his head, his face full of indifference. "It's best if it escapes. From the beginning, my purpose was not to kill the Corpse King. I just want to make sure that there is no longer any existence that can threaten us around the shelter. As long as it's not near a shelter, it doesn't matter to me whether it's dead or alive." Liang Yu frowned and said with some worry, "But if other human forces are wiped out, then the entire Xianhei city will be overrun by zombies and rats. Can we survive alone?" As a teacher, Liang Yu's thinking is always more detached and advanced. Zhang Yi smiled. "You seem to be thinking too much. Our ability is only to protect ourselves. The deeper you think about it, the worse your fear becomes. If you say it like this, maybe one day the entire blue star will be destroyed by the virus, so what can we do? Don't rush to think so far. It's enough to think about the environment in which you live. As for other things, we can only resign ourselves to fate. We don't have such a powerful ability to think about everything at a higher level." Zhang Yi put his hands on his chest and said lightly, "If you are rich, you will benefit the world, and if you are poor, you will be alone. Now I'm most concerned about the latter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 446. Liang Yu stopped arguing. She knew what Zhang Yi said made sense. After all, with their abilities, it is not easy to protect their own group of people. As for considering other people's situation, that's not Zhang Yi's character. Several people blocked all the exits of the subway tunnel. Then Zhang Yi came to the entrance of Sigwa Station. He opened the gate of the dimension and poured a huge amount of seawater down the subway entrance. Crash! A huge amount of seawater poured out along the long and narrow tunnel, rushing forward frantically. Judging from this speed, it only takes 3 hours to completely release the seawater and flood the entire tunnel. The rats in the subway may be able to sense the crisis and escape in advance, but most of them will definitely be submerged by these waters, or even freeze to death directly in it. As for the sleeping zombies, when they didn't meet living people, or were commanded by the corpse king, they wouldn't wake up, no matter what happened. What Zhang Yi has to do is to get rid of most of the corpses and rats. Even if some fish slip through the net, as long as the number is small enough, it will not pose any threat to Zhang Yi and the others. Crash. Boom. In the subway tunnel, the raging flood kept washing the subway tunnel, and the water was getting bigger and bigger, like a big river rushing during the flood season. The flood gradually submerged the rats hiding in the tunnel crevices, also overwhelmed the sleeping zombies in the depths of the wet and muddy tunnels. Squeak. Squeak. The giant rats uttered horrified screams, and then hurried towards the place not covered by the flood. But how could they run as fast as the flood? Soon a large number of rats are overwhelmed. A small number of mice ran in time, and crawled out along the tunnel in trance. But without the environment they depend on, these mice cannot survive in the environment of -4 degrees. They have to find the right environment again. But in this end time environment, it is difficult to provide them with such an environment and sufficient food. Rats and zombies are in a symbiotic relationship. Rats can provide combat power for corpse groups. In a sense, the dead king deliberately raised these rats. The food for these mice is actually some zombies. Without these carcasses as their food, they simply could not have grown to such a huge size. So after being forced out of the subway tunnel, they will soon lose the soil on which they live, thereby rapidly disappearing. Even if a few giant rats can survive, it is difficult to reproduce on a large scale. Therefore, in a short period of time, it is impossible for them to pose any threat to Zhang Yi's shelter. In the depths of the subway, the zombies seemed to be guided by some kind of guidance, and began to wake up. However, even if the zombies have stronger physical abilities than humans, they cannot maintain a stable body shape in the tide. It was quickly washed up and down, like pieces of broken wood, drifting away with the waves. The flood became bigger and bigger, and the entire tunnel was slowly submerged. Then Zhang Yi started to open the coagulant that Lu Karen made for him. Many white vats. After opening, a clear liquid poured out from inside. After the coagulant was poured into the water, the purified seawater began to condense into ice at a speed visible to the naked eye. The ice layer spread rapidly toward the depths of the water. Those zombies and giant rats that were still struggling in the water were soon frozen solid. Half a day passed by in a flash. The entire secondary canal is now completely frozen. Zhang Yi clapped his hands. Now our problem has been solved. Even if some zombies and giant rats escaped, it didn't matter. Even if the corpse king is not killed, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even if the bronze armored corpses survive, whether it's zombies or rats, the reason why they can pose a threat to Zhang Yi and the others is because there are too many of them. Taken out alone, even the fighting power of the bronze armored corpse is not enough to make Zhang Yi feel intimidated. As long as most of the zombies and giant rats are killed, even if the rest are all elites, Zhang Yi and the others can easily kill them. Then we should be at ease for a while. As for the troubles of corpses and rats, let other forces have a headache. Zhang Yi smiled and said to everyone. Uncle Liu, Liang Yu and Fatty Zhu looked at each other with a relaxed smile on their faces. This huge trouble was unexpectedly solved by Zhang Yi with such a simple method. A few people couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The ability of the space system is really perverted. Fatty Zhu complained. The internet is honest and never deceives. In the field of supernatural powers, time is respected, space is king, fate does not come out, and cause and effect are king. Our boss has the power of space, and he is invincible in the entire Xianhei city. Hearing what Fatty Zhu said, Zhang Yi couldn't help but ask, where did you learn all this? One set? Fatty Zhu chuckled, rubbed his head and said, it's all internet common sense. Zhang Yi lowered his eyes. It was not the first time he heard Fatty Zhu's words. In fact, Zhang Yi also had some insights in his heart. His space system ability seems to be mostly an auxiliary function in the battle. But in fact, in many respects, its convenience can be called a monster. But now, as he developed more and more skills, this ability became more abnormal. Zhang Yi shook his head. He is not a competitive person, and he doesn't bother to compare with others whose abilities are more powerful. All he wants is to protect himself, and if he has extra ability, to take care of the people around him, that's all. Liang Yu asked, then what shall we do next? How to do? Zhang Yi sneered, what else can I do? Of course, beat the dog in the water. He has always been cautious in doing things, and he will not leave any chance to the other party. Although the entire subway tunnel has been frozen, some remnants must have escaped from the subway. As for those who can escape, except for a part of them who are more lucky, the rest are definitely those with stronger vitality. Whether it's zombies or mice, in short, these things are very threatening to us. It's all here, you can't be empty-handed, it's always good to kill more. Zhang Yi took out a spray nozzle, and the bullet was loaded with a click. He raised his gun, and said to the crowd, let's go. We can kill as much as we can, and do one more cleanup at the end, then call it a day. Everyone didn't have any opinions. This time it was mainly Zhang Yi who did the work, and they watched from the side. So now they have a lot of physical strength and energy. Seeing Zhang Yi kill so many zombies and giant rats, their hands were itchy and wanted to clean up some zombies and giant rats. So a few people got on the snowmobile and walked along the entire secondary canal line again. Around the subway entrance, many dying giant rats and zombies lying motionless on the ground were found. Not surprisingly, they smashed these things to pieces. Chapter 447, Shaking Jiangnan. Outside the subway line, 7 or 8 huge bronze armored corpses crawled out of the subway, and a short humanoid creature covered in white hair was tightly surrounded by them. No one could have imagined that this unattractive looking thing with no fighting power could actually be the Corpse King commanding the corpses in the subway tunnel. At this time, the White Corpse King looked at the subway tunnel completely submerged in ice water. There was a hint of confusion in its eyes, because it was ordered to keep cultivating corpses in this place, then expand the scale, and finally kill all the humans in the shelter in the southwest. But now, the entire subway tunnel has been completely destroyed. The army of zombies that it worked so hard to cultivate was almost wiped out. The remaining part of the zombies simply cannot form a large-scale corpse group, let alone attack the human sanctuary. At this time, it doesn't know what to do next. 8 huge bronze armored corpses surrounded the Corpse King. They lowered their heads, waiting for the Corpse King's order. When they are not ordered by the Corpse King, they will not act most of the time, unless they encounter a living person and have a stressful reaction. After a long time, the Corpse King's brain seemed to be restarted suddenly. It made a decision, that is to turn around and walk step by step towards the far north. The 8 bronze armored corpses followed closely behind, heading north step by step, walking slowly against the ice and snow. Zhang Yi finally solved all the zombies in the secondary canal line by using the method of flooding. Since then, no zombies have appeared around the shelter. This also verifies that Zhang Yi's approach has achieved great success. Without the soil on which to live, no matter whether it is the Corpse King or other zombies, there is no way to continue to stay in the underground railway. Apart from subway tunnels, there is no such large underground space in other places. It can provide enough comfortable soil to provide a living place for rats and zombies. Obviously, the mutated virus in the zombie body cannot remain active in an environment of -60 degrees. It seems that human beings can also live in extreme temperatures for a period of time, but they cannot survive in extreme temperatures all the time. These are two different concepts. There are only 2 things Zhang Yi has to do next. The first is to enjoy your current comfortable life. The second is to observe the situation of other forces being attacked by zombies, so as to maintain vigilance against the corpses. Yang Xingxin has real-time monitoring of the network in various places. Through their internal communication, we can know how far they are fighting against the corpses. Among these major forces, the Snow Worship cult suffered the greatest loss. They are believed to have killed more than 3,000 people so far. They were all directly killed by zombies during the battle. Among the people who were bitten by zombies, some of them also showed similar mutations. But before they turned into zombies, they were directly killed by the Snow Worshippers. In their words, this is called returning to the kingdom of the Snow God. As for the Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base, the number of personnel they lost is also relatively serious. The number of soldiers killed in battle reached 500 or 600. The Zhang base even gave up the harbor directly and hid in the sea to escape the zombie disaster. Although when eating hay was in pain, he had a wishful thinking in his heart. He hoped that the tide of corpses could wipe out all the people in Shanghai City. At that time, they can come back and become the biggest force in Shanghai City. After all, things like zombies cannot survive forever. They use humans as food, and once all the living people in Shanghai City are killed, this kind of thing will disappear quickly. On the side of Yangsheng base, Zhao Han practiced hard. She ordered people to dig a deep trench around the base, and then dumped a large amount of crude oil into it. Whenever there are swarms of corpses and rats coming, just like the crude oil in the trench, immediately there will be a 4 to 5 meter high firewall covering the entire refinery. The raging fire burned many corpses and rats to death. Fire is the most effective attack against hordes of corpses and rats. It's just that fuel itself is extremely scarce these days. It is extravagant for Zhao Han to do so. But who makes people have more oil resources in their hands? Therefore, they can fully afford this kind of consumption. As for Zhang Yi's old friend Crossing Shan, the situation is also not ideal. Under the blessing of Crossing Shan's ability, these lumberjacks in the steel factory have become fighters who can fight 10 against 1. Relying on heavy weapons such as tomahawks, sledgehammers, and iron bars in their hands, they started a team battle with the zombies. There is a clear gap between the number of people and the number of zombies. After 1 battle and 2 battles, they can still withstand such a battle. But they have to fight countless zombies every day, and their strength is also extremely depleted. So that later, Crossing Shan had to lead his remaining subordinates, and began to hide in the depths of the shelter. It doesn't matter if they leave the equipment of the steel factory to the zombies for the time being. Zombies don't know how to use equipment or destroy them. These living dead are only interested in human flesh. The idea of Crossing Shan's beating was to hide first and then come out of the ground after the zombies disappeared. The security level of the underground shelter is very high. Zhang Yi has tried it before, and unless a large yield ground penetrating missile is used, it is possible to pose a certain threat. Let alone tens of thousands of these zombie groups. Even if they reached hundreds of thousands, it would probably take a very long time to dig out the shelter. Therefore, in a short period of time, the Qingpu base, which was the first to confess, should not have too many problems. But after a long time, no one can tell what will be the outcome of this zombie crisis. Zhang Yi agrees with Crossing Shan's approach. Although this person's IQ is not particularly high, but he knows his own weight better. He confessed in a timely manner and did not blindly fight the zombies to the death. Only then did the vitality of the Qingpu base be preserved. In a blink of an eye, 7 days have passed. On Zhang Yi's side, everyone drank tea and read books at home every day, and their lives were quite comfortable. It seemed that the tide of corpses and rats that appeared before had nothing to do with them. But the other factions are in a miserable situation. They have been tortured by the corpses and rats and almost collapsed. The corpse king who was beaten away by Zhang Yi took the 8 bronze armored corpses to the north. There they build new nests. In Shanghai City, it is not very difficult for them to find a warm and comfortable underground lair. The densely crisscrossing subway lines are their best habitat. But they still need food, and the source of this food is the remaining population of less than 100 million in Shanghai City. And the place where humans gather is the best place for these zombies. Even if separated by a very long distance, they can still smell the smell of living people and slowly move in that direction. There are more and more zombies in Shanghai City, but the amount of meat they can eat is very limited. In addition to the 5 major forces, there are also some other small forces that are almost eaten up by the zombies. And out of the instinct to find food, slowly, some zombies located on the edge of Shanghai City began to spread towards the surrounding cities. The tide of corpses in the last days began to evolve from Shanghai City to a larger scale. And this situation finally aroused the vigilance of the surrounding cities. It even alarmed the largest force in the entire Jiangnan region, the Jiangnan region. Chapter 448. 7-man squad. North District of Shanghai City. This is the northern boundary of Shanghai City, and if you go further north, you will reach the neighboring Xinjiang City. At this time, hundreds of zombie corpses were lying on the snowy ground. It may not be strict to describe them with corpses, because these are dead things in themselves. They just followed their instincts and gathered towards places with food. Among the zombies, several people walked around, collecting some blood, flesh and other biological samples from the zombies. On a hill not far away, a man in black was staring intently at the exit of the subway station in the distance. His attire was a little odd. In such an environment, he was actually wearing pure black clothes, and even wore a pair of huge black-toed glasses on his eyes. The stern face was a little sickly pale, and the thin face seemed to have been carefully shaved with a saber. It was this tall, thin, sickly middle-aged man, but he exuded an aura of not being close to strangers all over his body. Not only was he dressed in black, but the other 6 people around him were also dressed in black. In a world of ice and snow, white is the best camouflage color, and there are only 2 kinds of people wearing black clothes. Or they are extremely confident in their own strength. Either they are so confident in their identity that they know no one will dare attack them. Perhaps there is another situation, that is, both of the above. These people are not natives of Xianhai City, they are from the headquarters of the Jiangnan region. There is a blizzard city that has stood firm since the beginning of the end of the world, and has hundreds of thousands of residents. And they are the special operations team sent by Zhu Zeng, the supreme commander of Blizzard City. Zombies have been raging in Xianhai City for a long time, and due to their huge scale, they have begun to spread towards the surrounding cities. Such a phenomenon has caused panic in surrounding cities, and has received the attention of the Jiangnan region. Because the new zombies that appeared here were not slow moving, and could be killed casually. This is a monster with extremely strong mobility, great strength, and is very difficult to kill. These things are quite difficult to deal with, let alone ordinary people, even for fully armed elite fighters. Based on this premise, the Jiangnan region also had to take it seriously. Because everyone knows that the permanent population of Xianhai City has reached 2,000 million. If most of the people who died here turned into zombies, they would slowly spread to the whole country, causing an unimaginable disaster. And the team headed by Zhang Yi, the man in sunglasses, is the special operations team that came here to deal with this zombie crisis. Several members of the investigation team finished collecting the biological data of the zombie, and then returned to Bayan Zhang Yi's side. Captain, we have collected the information of these zombies. Meng Xiaoyu, a heroic medical and biological expert with long black hair, said to Bayan Zhang Yi. Bayan Zhang Yi withdrew his gaze from looking into the distance. It always makes people feel a little strange that he wears sunglasses at all times. He said slowly, no thermal reaction was found. There are only a group of small-scale zombies here, and there is no alien manipulation. Go back and study it carefully to see if this thing is controlled by someone or a virus. The higher-ups attach great importance to this thing. After finishing speaking, Bayan Zhang Yi suddenly covered his mouth and coughed violently a few times, as if he wanted to cough out his lungs. The deputy captain Bailey chanking behind said worriedly, Captain, are you alright? This is a slightly fat, tall and majestic man with short hair. Obviously looks very bluffing, but there is always a gentle smile on his face. Bayan Zhang Yi waved his hands disapprovingly. It's okay, it's an old problem. There was a look of worry in the eyes of several team members. Their old captain's health has never been very good. But if you despise him by thinking that he is a sick person, then it is a big mistake. Even if you look at the entire Jiangnan region, Bayan Zhang Yi is also a well-known strong man. From their patterns of movement, it appears that the virus is controlling their movements. But Mu Xiaoyu paused for a moment, then said hesitantly, I feel a little weird. There was no expression on Bayan Zhang Yi's face. His thin white face was like a sharp knife. It's too slow to rely on us to study. This matter must be dealt with as soon as possible, so that the tide of corpses cannot spread to the surrounding area. In the end, we still need local forces to assist us in our investigation. The strong man Bailey chanking behind him scratched his head. Since the end of the world, there has been no connection between Jinling and Xianhai City. It is said that the various shelters on their side have been in a mess, and the leaders have changed several times. Bayan Zhang Yi said coldly, no matter who is in charge of the major forces in Xianhai City, they must fully cooperate with us when faced with such a problem. Under the whole world? Is it the king's land? On the shore of the land? Is it the king's ministers? The entire Jiangnan region must be under the jurisdiction of the Jiangnan region. In the past, let them control freely. But now there is such a big problem, they must take responsibility for the zombie crisis in Xianhe City. At this time, a shrewd and capable young man walked over not far away. While stuffing a notebook into his backpack, he said to Bian Junwoo, "According to your instructions, I have already contacted the heads of the major forces in Xianhe City in the name of the Jiangnan region. I asked them to come to meet this afternoon. Among them is Zhang Yi, who was specifically mentioned by you." Yi Zhikang asked with some puzzlement. "According to our information, Zhang Yi only has a team of less than 10 people. And what we need is the assistance of large forces. They have too few people. Is it necessary to call them?" Bian Junwoo said calmly, "According to our intelligence, the zombie problem is the smallest in their area. And judging from the previous news, although they are small in number, each of them is an elite. Now in order to solve the zombie problem in Xianhe City, any force that can be united must be used." Hearing what Bian Junwoo said, Yi Zhikang stopped talking. "You are the boss. You have the final say." He shrugged, with a bit of unrestrained expression on his face. Bian Junwoo is also used to his personality. A capable person, who can not have some personality? Not to mention their special operations team, all of them are top aliens in Blizzard City. Well, let's go to the central building first. The so-called central building was the former official office address of Xianhe City. It is located in the center of Xianhe City, which also means that Xianhe City was once the pinnacle of power. There is no special meaning in choosing this position. It's just telling all the forces in Xianhe City that no matter what time it is, the Jiangnan region still controls everything. On the other hand, the geographical location here is also located in the center of various forces, making it convenient for them to travel. Vice Captain Bailey Changking suddenly laughed. "Although we are here on behalf of the Jiangnan region, I don't know if these forces below will obey us." Among the team, as a sharpshooter, Qi Guangming said with a cold smile, "Not convinced? Then just beat them. As lower level forces, if they refuse to accept the commander of the Jiangnan region, they would not be enough to crush the Jiangnan region to death with a little finger." Everyone was talking and laughing, but they didn't pay attention to the existing major forces in Xianhe City. After all, for them, even a large-scale force like the Zishan base can be wiped out with just a few more missiles. Whether it is the 4 major bases, worshipping the Snow Sect, or Zhang Yi's team, they are too small for a truly huge military region level force. 7 people got on a big snowmobile. With shawl and long hair, Woody, who looks a little enchanting, drives a car. After positioning the car drove towards the central building. What's more interesting is that in the past in Xianhe City, no one could use satellite positioning to achieve accurate navigation. But this matter does not seem to be a problem at all for the 7-member team. Chapter 449, 1 ml. On this day, Zhang Yi and the others lived an unpretentious and boring life as usual. After solving the zombies and giant rats in the subway, nothing can threaten them anymore. But on this morning, a piece of news quietly broke the tranquility of their lives. Zhang Yi was eating breakfast leisurely in the living room. He was wearing a blue cotton pajamas and sat on the sofa with bare feet. The temperature inside the villa is kept at 22 degrees all the year round, which is the best feeling temperature. So you won't feel hot or cold at all. In the morning, Zhang Yi ate xia long bao made by Yang Mi and hand-ground soybean milk. The buns are stuffed with his favorite beef vermicelli and tofu with scallions. Spicy and salty, refreshing and appetizing. The women at home were sitting at the dining table, having breakfast and chatting, talking, and laughing with each other. As for Zhang Yi, Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu, the 3 of them got together for nothing. In addition to bragging, it is to discuss the current tragedy of other bases. Those who can enjoy this comfort are only a few of them in the entire Xianhe City. The other forces didn't know what kind of miserable situation they were forced into by the swarms of zombies and rats. Those forces are still unclear, and their network has been closely monitored by Yang Xingxin. So Zhang Yi can receive information about them every day. He knows exactly how many people died in battle, and how many resources were lost every day. Zhang Yi has always regarded these news as the seasoning of life. As a human being, sometimes you need to get in touch with some gossip from the outside world in order to live a carefree life. By the way, they also collect information about the corpse group, so as to prevent another corpse group from appearing near the shelter one day, so that they will not be caught off guard. Intelligence will always be one of the most important strategic resources in the last days. At this moment, Yang Xingxin suddenly drove a wheelchair from the control room to the living room. Her face was a little dignified. When she came to Zhang Yi, she said to Zhang Yi, "Brother Zhang Yi, here is a very important email. I need you to read it." Seeing Yang Xingxin's heavy expression, Zhang Yi knew something special had happened. It is obviously not an ordinary situation for this genius girl to show such a serious expression. Oh, what happened? Let me take a look. Yang Xingxin moved to Zhang Yi's side and then showed Zhang Yi the computer in her hand. Zhang Yi took a closer look and suddenly saw an email on the computer. The content of the mail is, "Special dispatched personnel from the Jiangnan region have arrived in Xianhe City. Please arrive at the central building of Xianhe City on time at 2:30 this afternoon. The invited list is Crossing Weinan from Qingpu Refuge, Zhao Honglian in Yangsheng Refuge, Cheoyu Refuge Weiding He, Yuan Kangai, the leader of Snow Worship Cult, and Zhang Yi, who has no title. The signature below is Jiangnan Military Region." When Zhang Yi saw this email, his eyes widened involuntarily. Jiangnan Military Region. Is it one of the 5 major military regions of China whose headquarters is located in Jinling? For all Chinese people, this is already basic common sense. The 5 major military regions of Huaguo represent the top military power of Huaguo. In peaceful times, they are the foundation of the country. After coming to the end of the world, they are still the cornerstone of stabilizing Huaguo. As for how strong the Jiangnan region is, there is no need to question it at all. You know, the last time Zhang Yi was able to defeat the strong with the weak and destroy the Zishan base, a very important reason was that a missile was launched from the Jiangnan region. If the Jiangnan region is willing, the entire Xianhe city can disappear from the territory with a snap of its fingers. How could Zhang Yi not be in awe of this level of power? Yang Xingxin nodded. Yes, I think it must be them. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. How can I be sure that this email is genuine and not someone's conspiracy or hoax? Yang Xingxin shook her head. Brother Zhang Yi, I can tell you with certainty that this must be a message from someone from the Jiangnan region. Because our network system has installed a very strong protective wall. Anyone who wants to contact us has to apply. If I don't allow it, their message cannot be delivered. But this email went directly over my superficial protective wall and was sent directly to our mailbox. There are only 2 kinds of people who can do this. The first is the hacker above me, and the second is the official organization with higher authority at the internet level. Of course, it is impossible for someone in China to break into our network in such a short period of time without Xingxin noticing. So I can conclude that the other party must be from the Jiangnan region. I just don't know what is the purpose of their sudden visit to Xianhe City this time. I think it might have something to do with the zombie problem. Yang Xingxin expressed her guess. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. They can actually do this? Doesn't that mean that our network is not safe anymore? Yang Xingxin smiled disapprovingly. The real core of the shelter is the internal network, which uses an independent server and has no connection with the outside world, so they can't break it. Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief. However, he still feels that this problem has become a bit tricky now. With the addition of external forces and behemoths whose strength completely crushed their 5 major forces in Xianhe City, the situation became uncontrollable. I think their coming this time is probably related to the current tide of corpses. After all, the scale of the corpse tide is too large, and its origin is too mysterious. If it is allowed to develop, maybe the nearly 2,000 million dead bodies in the entire Xianhe city will become a huge wave of corpses. Not to mention that there are terrifying giant rats mixed in with the tide of corpses. Once the tide of corpses and rats spread to other cities, it will turn into an uncontrollable catastrophe. Zhang Yi spread his hands and said humorously, "Isn't that how Resident Evil came about?" Yang Xingxin nodded. It can be seen from this email that they have a clear understanding of all the conditions in Xianhe City. So during the roll call, the leaders of each faction were precisely named. I think we should go there. There is no need to offend a superior military region at this time. Zhang Yi held the back of his head and leaned on the sofa thinking for a while. He said slowly, judging from the computer capabilities of the other companies in Xianhe City, it's unlikely that they set up a trap. However, for safety reasons, I still bring as strong an armed force as possible, which is the safest. Regarding safety, Zhang Yi was not particularly worried. Now, except for their family, the power of other families in Xianhe City has been greatly weakened. As long as Zhang Yi takes his elite team out, even if he encounters any forces, there will be no great danger. Even if the opponent is too strong, it's okay to be unable to escape. So Zhang Yi called everyone to the living room and told them about it. After hearing that people from the Jiangnan region had come to Xianhe City, everyone had different expressions on their faces. Some people are happy, while others are worried. Fatty Zhu is the one who is more worried. With a bitter face, he said to Zhang Yi and others, our life is relatively stable now. If other forces enter Xianhe City, I'm afraid it will change everyone's current living environment. Zhang Yi shook his head disapprovingly when he heard Fatty Zhu's words. Although Xianhe City is a port city, it has relatively rich supplies. But compared to the Jiangnan region, the things I have in my hands are simply not in their rise. That's right, even though Zhang Yi emptied out the entire Walmart warehouse, his few supplies are nothing to the Jiangnan region. After all, Jiangnan has been the most prosperous area of commerce and trade since ancient times. The Jiangnan region controls the entire free shipping area. In terms of supplies, they will never be short. For ordinary people affected by the extreme cold weather, there may be various travel inconveniences and shortages of supplies. But for such a large area with huge energy, these problems can be easily solved. Chapter 450 Assemblies. After receiving Zhang Yi's explanation, Fatty Zhu relaxed a little. That would be the best. I just think everyone's life is pretty good now, and I'm afraid of changes. People with a comfortable life always don't want any factors to change the status quo. Zhang Yi also understood this. It's just that Zhang Yi didn't think it was a bad thing for the people from the Jiangnan region to come down. It is impossible for Zhang Yi himself to help other forces solve the large number of zombies and rats in Xianhe City. But he also notes that it is very difficult for the other companies to rely on their own strength to solve this problem. If things go on like this, the situation will deteriorate. If people from the big area can help them deal with this problem, then the living environment in Xianhe City will become better in the future. At least Zhang Yi didn't need to worry. After the zombies wiped out other forces, they attacked their shelters in turn. Considering the problem from this perspective, Zhang Yi is optimistic about the arrival of people from the region. Except for Fatty Zhu, a pessimist, most people thought so too. Uncle Liu, who was born in the military, folded his arms and said solemnly, I think we should trust them. As the leader of the region, the Jiangnan region must not want to see a large-scale zombie riot in a city with a large population like Xianhe City. Liang Yu nodded. I think so too. Under the situation of zombie siege, everyone hopes to have a higher level of power to help them solve the problems they are facing now. Although the shelter has not been greatly affected now. But living in such a city, no one can guarantee what will happen in the future. It would be great if the problem of zombies could be completely solved. Zhang Yi nodded and said, well, since the news has been sent to us, we have to go and have a look anyway. As he spoke, he looked at Yang Xingxin again. Xingxin, you are in charge of monitoring the network. Although it can be basically concluded that this email was sent by someone from the Jiangnan region, we still have to be on the safe side, avoiding a trap set by someone else with some means we don't know. Although this probability is not high, it is not completely absent. Out of prudence, Zhang Yi instructed Yang Xingxin carefully. Yang Xingxin curled her lips. As the world's top hacker, there is no one who can completely deceive her. But she still answered honestly, okay, brother. Xingxin will definitely protect the shelter's network security. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xingxin's playful appearance, smiled dotingly, reached out and rubbed her lovely head. Well, everyone has a good meal at noon today, and then we will set off for the central building together in the afternoon. Remember, you must be extremely cautious and be ready to fight at any time. Under the current environment, you never know what unexpected situation may arise. Everyone nodded in agreement. After getting along for a long time, they have recognized Zhang Yi's leadership ability. Perhaps from the perspective of IQ, Zhang Yi is not the highest among several people. But from a rational point of view, Zhang Yi is definitely the calmest and most stable person. Follow his plan, be careful and make no big mistakes. This cautious and stable character is an extremely important ability to survive in the last days. Of course, Zhang Yi and his family couldn't be the only ones who received this email. At the same time, all large-scale forces in Xianhe City received emails from the investigation team of the Jiangnan region. For them, this email is almost equivalent to a life-saving straw. Today, they have long been tortured badly by zombies and rats. The Qingpu base was forced to go underground on a large scale, not daring to start a direct conflict with the swarms of corpses and rats. The Yangsheng base lost troops and generals, and consumed a large amount of crude oil, which barely maintained the current situation. The Zhaoyu base even hid in the sea, and even gave up the port. You know, there are still a lot of goods stored in the ports they control, which are important resources. Abandoning them also made Weidinghe very painful. As for what happened to Beizujiao, they can't even describe their tragedy in words. Except for St. John's Cathedral, the surrounding area of the snow worship cult's camp has become a hell on earth. Zombies and rats are killing the living. And the living are scrambling to kill rats as their protein source. After fighting for a week, the number of people in the entire snow worship cult was only half of what it was in its heyday. So at this time, after receiving the email from the dispatched personnel from the Jiangnan region, the leaders of various forces were very excited. Some people may wonder if this is a trap. But under the current situation, even if it is a trap, they have to jump in and take a look. Therefore, each family also took their hands and went to the central building. Go meet the special envoy sent by the legendary Jiangnan region. Perhaps this is their greatest and last hope to eliminate the zombies and rat hordes. Xianhe City, Xianfeng District, Central Building. The vehicles of the investigation team from the Jiangnan region drove here. I saw that most of the once magnificent central building had been buried by ice and snow. The exposed half is also covered with thick snow. If the positioning is not accurate enough, I'm afraid it will be difficult to find this position. A few people from Bianjunwu got out of the car, and the snowmobile that was obviously specially made for their mission was parked outside the building. Looking at the central building, that was almost buried by heavy snow in front of him, the deputy captain Bailey Changking scratched his thick neck. Oh, I didn't expect this place to become like this. It's really bad. They should come with a lot of people. It's not good to be in such a mess. At this moment, Woody, who was next to him, came out with a relaxed smile on his face. It's okay, I'll just clean it up. As he spoke, he opened his right hand and aimed at the central building in the distance. A ball of white light slowly emerged in his palm and then rushed forward with a boom. Wherever the white light ball passed, a large snowdrift was blown away. Moments later, all the snow in front of everyone was cleared away, and a circular passage appeared. After finishing all this, with a smile on his face, Woody walked over to Bianjunwu and made a pleased gesture. Captain, please. There was no expression on Bianjunwu's face. He just put his hands in the pockets of his black coat and took the lead towards the central building. Bailey Changking followed closely behind, and the others followed in turn. From the order of several people's footsteps, we can see their status in the team. The first is the captain Bianjunwu, and the second is the deputy captain Bailey Changking. Ranked third is Woody. Afterwards, virus experts Meng Xiao and Qi Guangming ran side by side. Finally, there are top special forces, sharpshooter Qi Guangming, and mixed martial arts expert Kang Sheng. In the investigation team, anyone pulled out is the top level of combat power of the major forces. Especially the two captains and Woody, their abilities are at least at the level of the base leader or above. After everyone came to the central building, they briefly cleaned the snow inside, and then found a conference hall that was still in good condition. Bianjunwu sat on a soft black sofa, quietly waiting for the representatives of the major forces to come. As for the other people in the team, although they still had a relaxed look on their faces, they still habitually came to every corner of the central building and observed everything around them. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.